starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Well, hello and welcome to Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports, and we are presented by United Dairy Farmers. Another day, and Paul Skenes continues to show that he's good at baseball.
I think
he's
so.
He's kind of good at baseball, and it's exciting when the MLB gets a true young phenom. It's been a while since we've had one of them, but we got a full show for you guys today. We're going to talk a lot about the Reds. We're going to talk about the Boston Celtics. They had one of the most dominating seasons in NBA history. And also, we're going to touch on spring football. Spring football viewership's up. Ratings are up. All of it's up. Can it stay? Can it stay? Reed Mouse, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett over here. And then at the producer's desk, we got Jimmy Tuesday and Casey McCollister. Guys, welcome in here. Elliot, you look very blue.
I am blue today, aren't I?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it is hot outside. That's why I was going to do it. Thinking of water and hydration, because it is miserable outside. I know we had that debate yesterday about would you rather be in 40 degree or 95 degree. The answer is clear, and it is 40 degree. It felt horrible yesterday.
I think if you have 40-degree weather, you're not going outside at all. I went outside yesterday.
I'm not going outside in this.
I didn't go outside yesterday.
I was outside all day, and it was fine. Yeah, I sweat, but yeah.
It was miserable. It's not even like fun. It's humid. It's the humidity. It feels gross. It feels sticky. But yeah, listen, the Reds lost yesterday. We'll talk about it. I think we all knew going into that game that we didn't have a really great shot at it. Carson Spiers versus Paul Skenes, but yeah.
I've got a breaking news for you, Elliot.
Wow.
Ooh.
Your favorite pop singer, Justin Timberlake, arrested
Really?
for driving while intoxicated.
Man.
Can't do it.
But
My initial thoughts on that. Let me think.
He needs to look at the man in the mirror.
I think, I was trying to think of a song, and we'll ride with that.
Mirror, mirror.
Yeah.
I was gonna say "Man in the Mirror." That's
Mirror, mirror is the best I can
That's
think
not
of.
a Justin Timberlake song.
You almost got it, though.
Mirror, mirror is.
Mirror, mirror. Yeah,
That's the best I could think of.
Right, that's Justin Timberlake.
I'm very sorry about that. Listen, Justin, if you need help, if you need me to pay your bail, help me. Give me a call.
If you're a cop, are you more likely to arrest a famous person, or do you let them go? Because Justin Timberlake's one that who that is.
You're setting yourself up for some Scotty Scheffler bad press. So I think you can let him go.
You're just letting him go.
How drunk was he?
That's true. He's got
Is
to.
he going to hurt someone else, or is he stone's throw from home?
Was he passed out at a Burger King and stuff like that? I don't think so. I bet he was just having a little fun.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough. What a bad month the guy you just referenced had last year.
I hope he's doing great now. I hear he's doing great. He's speaking to kids all around the country.
How long will Bob Huggins be rumored to get a job? Because and by rumored, only just random people just throw out. What about Bob Huggins? How long will that go on before we stop that?
A decade longer?
Yeah, it's got about 5 years. 5 years.
Is that what happened with Bob Knight after he left Texas Tech? They're just what about Bob Knight?
I think so.
It happens with all great coaches.
Yeah, as long as you're not too old. Bob Huggins, let's do a little age check on Bobby Huggins.
I mean, we won't stop hearing about Bill Belichick being in the mix for NFL jobs for.
How old do we think Bob Huggins is?
68.
I was going to say 70.
70 on the dot. He said, this is a Sports Illustrated post, Bob Huggins is ready to resurrect his coaching career. Wow.
Good for him.
If he can drive to the arena sober, he's got a real
In
fair
the
shot.
right city.
Correct.
Got to be in the right
If
city.
you're a small school, why not give
the
it to
other part
Bobby?
of it, too.
It's
Butts and seats.
right, yeah. If you're Detroit Mercy, just sure.
Yeah. Doug Gottlieb versus Bob Huggins.
That'd be great.
That'd be a
Same
great
league. That'd be great. That'd be great.
I listen. I love it. I love the idea, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen.
Will Bill Belichick have a job next year? That's the other question I have for you.
Will Bill Belichick have a job next
After
year?
this coming
I don't
season's
think so.
over?
I
think he's done?
I think he's done.
I think he'll have a job.
You think he'll have a
think
job?
he'll have a
Somebody's
job
going to
as
get
well.
fired this season. And I would bet there's 3 to 4 coaches that get fired this season. And I bet he would take over one of them.
That story
He
that
just might get too comfortable not coaching. I mean, if you get a whole year off, he's pretty old.
He's got his young new girlfriend now.
Yeah, he's
Right.
dating a 24-year-old.
feels young again.
Good for him.
Did you guys ever read that article about the Atlanta Falcons job and how Bill thought he had it?
Yeah, I did.
And all of the executives, the owner had the executives say, hey, list your candidates 1 through 3. And Bill Belichick didn't make the top 3 for a single executive in the room. And he thought he had the job.
Well, I think he.
That's
Who did
crazy.
he
I think
know?
his coaching style is on the way out. I don't think people want to play for him. I don't think it's going to translate to wins as much anymore. I think he's too old for the game.
I think the biggest knock against him was that he was the one making the draft picks, and obviously it all failed in New England for the final 2 years there. So that's probably what it comes down to.
Would he take a head coaching job without some kind of front office guarantees?
I think
or
he's
influence?
yeah. I think that's what he was saying is I'll be collaborative now, which it like feels like the broken up boyfriend that's like I've changed, and it's just like have you like you're a little too old to do a little bit of changing there, Bill. Final thing I'll talk before we get into headlines. Who would you rather have a beer and a joyride with, Bob Huggins or Justin Timberlake?
I think it's clearly Bob Huggins. I mean,
Justin
those
Timberlake.
stories.
No,
would
it's
be
just
second.
the answer is Justin
Because
Timberlake.
Justin could play his music and like you could sing it together.
I can play Justin Timberlake music with Bob Huggins and have a grand old time.
Yeah, but, you
Yeah,
might
but
not
Justin
survive
Timberlake
that
would
far
be
out.
singing the
Apparently,
music.
you won't survive with JT either.
Well, I think listen. Bob Huggins clearly has more. He's a more efficient drunk driver, I guess.
Right. He's
Is
got more
the-
miles under his belt.
Bob Huggins, bad guy. I don't like Bob Huggins, by the way. But
Not a Bob Huggins guy?
I'm a UC fan who
Does that
doesn't
make
like
you
Bob
a
Huggins.
bad UC fan?
I guess so. It might. But I think Bob Huggins is a pretty bad guy. You can't drunk drive 45 times and then have me say, "Oh, good job."
Fair?
Fair
Can't-
enough. I'm taking JT. I'm taking JT, by the way, on my question,
JT
my
for sure.
hypothetical. He seems like a fun. He's married to Jessica Biel. Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Good for JT.
Yeah, good for JT. All right, headlines.
Headlines. Yesterday in sports, we'll start with the Reds, I guess, unfortunately. The Reds, they fall to the Pirates 4-1. Started off great. I felt great. Steer RBI double, top of the first. Maybe this is the first team that was going to get to Skenes. Nah. Went away quickly. In the bottom half of the first inning, the Pirates answered with 3 of their own, and then it was 4-1 the final score. So just bad. Reds offense didn't capitalize on anything. The Reds have lost 5 of their last 7. Paul Skenes was the story of the game. He went 6 innings, allowing 6 hits, 1 earned run, while striking out 7. His ERA is 2.29 and is now 4-0 on this young season since being called up. So Paul Skenes might be very good at baseball.
Might be
Might be.
best phenom since.
Hunter Green.
Elly De La Cruz.
Okay. By the way, but if we're moving on from the Reds, shout out to David Bell. 2 away from the record. 2 away from the record. That's what I'm talking about.
That's our all-star manager. Carson Spiers got roughed up in the first inning, allowing 3 hits and 3 earned runs. He settled in and allowed 4 hits, 1 earned run the other 5 innings he pitched. Final line, 6 innings, 4 earned runs, and 5 strikeouts. Brent Suter came in to close the rest of the game. Elly De La Cruz had a good game, kind of. He went 3 for 4 with a double and a stolen base. Offensively, he's all the way back. Spencer Steer went 2 for 4 with a double and the lone RBI of that game. Friedl, unfortunately, and we'll talk about this later, left with a hamstring injury after an incredible diving catch out in center field. The last 4 games for the Reds, 7 errors, 3 unearned runs, 2 runners picked off, and 1 misplay in the outfield. The Reds are second in getting picked off this season behind the Washington Nationals with 13. Elly De La Cruz leads Major League Baseball in errors at 15. He added another last night. He is 4 ahead of Alec Boehm, who's in second place, and in third place, our good friend Jamier Candelario. Elly is 5 ahead of him. Aaron Judge has been more productive by FWAR, that's 4.9 this season, than 8 entire team offenses. Thought I'd mention that in there, the Reds being one of them. Reds, Angels, A's, Nationals, Rockies, Pirates, Marlins, White Sox. Aaron Judge by himself this season has been more productive than 8 Major League teams. The Reds are back at it tonight. 7-2. Nick Lodolo faces Bailey Falter. Falter has a 3.86 ERA, 49 strikeouts. Lodolo has a 2.93 with 62 strikeouts. Good luck to the Reds tonight. I think the Reds will win this one. Around the league, Cardinals hang on and survive against the Marlins in 12 innings. 7-6, the final score there. Wins home run in the 12th was the game winner. Carlson threw out the potential tying run at the plate in the bottom half. Phillies, they crushed the Padres 9-2. Schwarber mashed 2 home runs, and Trey Turner had 2 hits in his return from the IL. Red Sox, they win 7-3 over the Blue Jays. Tyler O'Neill hit 2 of Boston's 4 home runs in the win. Braves, they outlast Jimmy's Tigers 2-1. Albies hit the go-ahead home run later in the game. Jimmy, thoughts on your Tigers?
Frustrating game. I thought Reese Olson pitched great. He threw 6 scoreless. We only scored 1 run in those 6 scoreless innings, so that's not going to really do much to help you win. Bullpen came in, gave up 1, gave up Ozzie Albies home run, 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th. It's about as frustrating as it gets. So I guess that's just the story of this stretch. This last month and a half has been pretty rough. Hopefully they turn it around, but I don't know.
Jimmy's out of hope. I would say it's not as rough as it gets because it gets as rough as it gets in Chicago. The Giants hit a go-ahead 3-run shot in the 9th inning, courtesy of Tyro Estrada. 7-6 is the final score there. Readeroo, the Cubbies might be bad.
Yeah. I'm a broken man because I bought it. There's a snake oil salesman. His name's Jed Hoyer. He walked right on up to my house in Highland Park in Hamilton, Ohio, and he said, "You want some snake oil?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. Snake oil sounds great. What's it do?" He said, "Everything." And that's what I thought the Chicago Cubs were going to be. I thought they're going to be very good. I thought that their offense, they scored last year, scored more runs than they did at any point during the run from 2015 to 2018, scored more runs than that. This year, the offense just isn't very good. And then when you get a game like last night where they score 6 runs, very exciting. Ian Happ hit a 3-run home run to take a 6-3 lead. In the bottom of the 7th inning, you pretty much chalk that one up as, hey, got ourselves a win. And what happens? They give up a home run in the 8th. They give up a 3-run shot in the 9th, and it broke me. It broke me. The Cubs, maybe it didn't break me because I'm going to watch them tonight.
For some reason, Jacob thought it was funny to point out that I was very quiet last night when we were hanging out after the Tigers lost. Rightfully so.
No,
when you lose on a late home run like that, it's pretty bad.
I understand. It was just very funny. Jimmy was having a great time. We were having a couple beers outside after the sun went down. It cooled down a little bit. And then the Tigers lost, and Jimmy shut down.
See, yeah, I was frustrated. But at least, for you, the Reds had been losing for most of the game.
All right.
So you kind of had accepted the fact that they lost.
I understand.
If I'm watching the Tigers game and they go down 4 or 5 runs, then I'm like, okay, they lost this one. Let's move on, maybe turn the game off, do something else. And
that's fair.
I feel like it kind of felt like the entire Reds game that the Reds probably weren't going to win.
Yeah, it was Spiers versus Skenes. We knew that one.
Right.
Correct.
He's right. It's
right.
heartbreaking. This is what's so funny about baseball is when your team goes up early in the game, you already chalk that one up in the standings. You're like, that's a win. And until they start losing by 5, you're like, you hold on to hope, we might hang around, we might do it. And it isn't until the 7th inning you're like, oh, we're losing by 3, we lost this game. Yeah. And the vice versa goes, when you're up by 3 in the 7th inning, you're like, this is a win. Good for my Cubbies, good for my Tigres, good for my Reds, and it just doesn't happen.
Does not happen. The Mets, they obliterated the Rangers last night 14-2. It looks like the Grimace magic continues. They have now won 6 in a row.
Since Grimace threw the first pitch.
Mets had 22 hits last night.
Who's your favorite McDonald's character?
Hamburglar.
The Hamburglar?
For sure.
You going Grimace?
I'm gonna go Ronald.
You're gonna go Ronald McDonald?
I'll go
Grimace.
You're going Grimace?
Grimace.
I'll go the Friar.
I like that one.
The Friar.
I like that one a lot. Dodgers, they crushed the Rockies 9-5. Shohei Ohtani went 3 for 5 with a walk and 2 doubles. James Paxton 7-1 on the season. He went 2 hits, gave up 1 earned run last night in 7 innings of work. Angels, they helped the Reds' cause, winning 5-3 over the Milwaukee Brewers. We have some more headlines coming up, but that is it for segment 1 on ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We'll be right back with you. Welcome back in. We are Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports. If you are listening on your car radio, we thank you very much. If you'd like to watch us, if you'd like to watch the rerun of this, just go to Chatterbox Sports on YouTube and check us out. So continuing on the headlines here, I was watching the NBA Finals last night. I had it on in the background while I was watching a TV show, but I kind of watched it. The Celtics gentleman sweep the Dallas Mavericks, coasting to a 106-88 victory. Easy win. I mean, it couldn't have been an easier win. It was all Luka again for Dallas. He scored 28 points, 12 boards. Kyrie Irving, non-existent. 15 points, 5 of 16 shooting. Jason Tatum had a 31-point double-double. He also added 8 boards. Jaylen Brown scored 21 points, 8 boards, 6 assists. He was the Finals MVP. Drew Holiday added 15 points on 7 of 14 shooting as well, with 11 rebounds. The Celtics have its 18th championship in franchise history, and that leads the NBA. I think looking back on this Finals, and really this whole postseason, I thought it was pretty underwhelming. I think the Knicks had the most, I don't want to say watchability, but it was clear like all of those games were really cool, and I thought the Timberwolves for the most part had it as well. But it was the Celtics championship pretty much from out of the gate. It was the Celtics championship before the season started. They were by far the best roster in the NBA, and they dominated this postseason. Dominated. I was asking Jacob, is it the most dominating postseason performance by a franchise, by a team? And no is the answer. Jacob pointed out that the Bulls had a pretty damn good run as well. But I'd argue that the Celtics, there was just never a doubt at all in any of these series.
Yeah, I think that's the main difference between the Celtics and the other teams we talked about. Like, even Jordan's Bulls, you were talking about teams in the Eastern Conference, in the championship, that would give them a run for their money. The Warriors with KD, they lost one game in their run to the championship in 2017, and you still thought at some point LeBron and the Cavs might beat them. There was really no point in the Celtics run where they were even close to being a pick-em to win the championship. I mean, they were minus, I think, 130 before the playoffs even started. They were in the 200s almost the entire time through the finals. So there was really no feasible opportunity for another team to win this championship. The Celtics, I mean, they've been to the finals, Eastern Conference Finals, 5 of the last 7 years, and then they go out and add Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, an All-NBA defender at point guard to replace, Marcus Smart, who was out there before, who obviously a good defender too, but provided almost nothing offensively, and Drew single-handedly wins them 2 games in the finals. So they just really went out and improved the roster and fixed the small holes they had and made a team that had really none.
I like this championship for Brad Stevens because I think that we all somewhat agreed that Brad Stevens was a phenomenal NBA coach, is clearly a phenomenal NBA GM, but it was like, yeah, but he never won. And now you throw that out the window. Now we can officially say, yeah, he's one of the best GMs, one of the best basketball minds we've seen in this era. Can you imagine being a Boston sports fan over the past 24 years?
Yeah, it must be nice.
Like, before the year 2000, that city hadn't won a whole lot. Like, yeah, the Celtics had won in the 60s and stuff like that, but the Red Sox hadn't won since 1917.
Yep.
And they've won 4 championships this millennia, this century. The Patriots, who had never won before, have won 6 Super Bowls. The Bruins have won a championship. The Celtics now have won 2. And if you sprinkle in, if you're a Connecticut basketball fan being there from Boston too, I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. It's like they will go not 2-3 years without winning a championship.
I hate Boston, and it sucks that they won the championship. And it's just because you hate teams that win. You hate cities that win. And nobody wins more than the city of Boston, especially in my lifetime. So, yeah, it sucks. And I live in a city where, respectfully, nothing good has happened sports-wise over the past 25 years. The Bengals obviously are the lone bright spot in 2021 when you went to a Super Bowl. But outside of that, it's not a lot. It's not a lot here in Cincinnati, and that's what really sucks. I do find it funny every time that somebody wins a championship. They thank your fans, best city in the world. Where are you going to celebrate this? We're going to Miami. We're going somewhere warm and with a great weather climate. That's where we're going to go. We're going to leave this greatest city ever, and we're just going to hop on a flight somewhere else and go party elsewhere. I do find that very funny. Jason Tatum, very unoriginal last night. I think he said about 15 unoriginal things in all of those press conferences combined. Very, very funny. He did take the Kobe Bryant picture a little bit. I don't even know if it was his idea to do that. Somebody definitely took that picture though, while he was leaning up against the wall with the Kobe kind of type of thing. Jason Tatum, is he the worst finals player ever?
Jason Tatum is
The worst
first.
finals player ever.
Jason Tatum's first in playoff points before turning 27. He's first in playoff wins since being drafted. He's first in playoff points since being drafted. He's a 4-time All-NBA player, 3-time first team, a 5-time All-Star, and a champion.
How dare you use stats to validate your points?
I'm a Jason
so
Tatum believer.
ludicrous.
I think Jason Tatum he was overrated, certainly, at some point.
Lowest shooting percentage in finals history.
I don't think that's true.
It is true.
How minimum?
150 minutes.
Okay. Well, he doesn't need to do it. He won a championship, so he's one of the best playoff players of this era.
Is there a championship that was needed more for a player's validation over the last 15 years than Jason Tatum?
LeBron's first one.
LeBron's first one.
Yeah, when he left Cleveland, people were talking about him being one of the biggest busts of all time, and he goes to Miami and wins the first championship. After they lost to the Mavericks, people really thought he couldn't do it.
Because I had
That changed the
in
narrative.
basketball alone, I had a couple in my mind. Like Giannis's was pretty important. Giannis was 2-time MVP before he won, and people
Jokic.
were like, Jokic not so much because I guess we're doing revisionist history now. Now, because when Giannis won his first one, it felt like he was gonna do it multiple times, and I don't know if he'll ever win again. Another one that I'll throw in there is Steph Curry's most recent one.
The Finals MVP.
Yeah, because his first 3 championships, he wasn't the MVP in 15. They lost to the Cavs in 16. They go back to back, but KD was the Finals MVP. And even though he's the greatest shooter of all time, he could have just always been like, he needed KD to win, or he couldn't get it done himself. But I feel like Tatum's is close to all the ones we just mentioned.
I think it would take a big jump on that list had he won Finals MVP. Okay. I think that'll hang over his head now for a while. I mean, the narrative just always shifts, and I think that'll hang over his head now until he does get back. And like Elliot said, he did, drop his performance off in the finals. So I think until he goes back and proves that he can truly lead a team to a ring, I think that'll still hang over his head. But you're absolutely right. I mean, he was a superstar at Duke. He came into the league at 19, 3rd overall pick, and he's really done nothing but be an all-star level player since he came in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Jason Tatum, and I'm not happy for the city of Boston because I can't stand them constantly winning. But I'm glad that they finally did win. So then hopefully they don't win again. But I do think all those guys needed a ring. I honestly think that the Finals MVP should have been Brad Stevens. Like building that roster as good as it was. It was an unstoppable roster. They had 5 All-Stars starting on one team, and they were just so much better than everyone else. Like you were saying, it never felt like they had a chance to lose a series, even if they lost a game. It was like, oh, okay, whatever.
They won all their series 4-1, and I feel like the closest series it felt like was the Pacers series, which they swept.
The only time I thought where maybe they had a chance to lose was when they lost that first game to Miami in the first round. It was like, oh, maybe Miami has their number again, but then like Jimmy Butler was out. It was just like, I don't know. I don't want to say it was a Mickey Mouse ring because that's all everyone's saying is that it didn't count and it was such an easy path. Yeah, the East was terrible. It was a bad conference compared to the West, but they dominated everyone. They did exactly what they had to do to prove that they were the champions. And yeah, I think it was a well-earned title and a very, very well-built roster.
How did that roster even come to be? Because it is dominating.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Tatum and Brown were both
Draft picks,
but like Kristaps, like how does this? It doesn't even make sense how it came to be. It's like he just plucked misfit toys that somehow molded into this perfect roster. Is this the beginning of a dynasty? Because I can't see anyone from the East competing with this team.
No, I mean Al Horford has been on the Celtics for a while. He was like one of the first big guys they signed. And by the way, shout out to Al Horford. He had the most playoff games without a championship ever in NBA history. He finally won one last night.
Now your guy.
Now my guy Al Horford. Yeah.
No, now your guy James Harden leads that stat.
Oh, I see. I forgot about Jacob did send me this last night. James Harden is now the longest active NBA player to not have a championship with the most amount of playoff appearances. Very, very funny stat. But yeah, listen, Brad Stevens is a top GM, and even when they weren't winning over the past couple seasons, they were still really, really good. And it started a while ago, and this was just the final notch that they needed. So yeah, Brad Stevens, I'll tell you what, I'm glad he didn't leave for Kentucky. I'm very glad he didn't leave for Kentucky because the Celtics are very good. I don't know if it's the beginning of the dynasty, though. I don't think it's because I think they've been in the dynasty and they've failed up until this point. But they
I almost feel like this championship validates the Eastern Conference Finals appearances.
Sure.
And now,
no, 100%.
if they win
does now.
one more in 3 years, then you're talking about like an 8-year dynasty.
They've been to the finals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in the last 8 years. I think that's right. And it's, I don't know. It's certainly, I don't see anybody in the East competing with this team for the time being. And if they scratch off 2, 3, and they three-peat or something like that, I don't think that'd surprise many people. I don't think that
Wouldn't
surprised many
surprise
people.
me.
It would be surprising
repeat.
in the essence that it felt like the NBA was kind of going into this era of where like the dynasties were kind of going by the wayside, right? I think we even talked about that on this show.
Yeah.
Are we entering a new NBA era where in the previous 2 decades it was the Warriors, before that it was the Heat, before that it was the Spurs, before that it was the Lakers, before that, and you go on back, and it's all these championships are won in bunches. And it felt like we were kind of getting into an era, which that's 5 straight champions with a different champion hoisting it up. But it feels like the Celtics could go back to back or even three-peat because they have such an easy pass to the championship. They have such an easy pass at least to the conference finals, to where they really have to win 2 series to win it all. I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell.
I wouldn't say the East is that easy. Giannis is healthy, which he wasn't this year. Chris Middleton's healthy, which he wasn't this year. The Bucks are a threat in the East. The Sixers, obviously Embiid was banged up this year. He's banged up seemingly every year. But they have a max slot open this year. If they go get another superstar to pair with him, they could rip off some games. The Knicks, they showed some fight this year, improving young roster. Jalen Brunson, a bona fide superstar in the league. They have a max slot as well. If they go get someone else, I think the East could not be as good as the West, but the East could get much more competitive here in the next year or so.
Yeah, I don't know. The Cavaliers are certainly on the downfall now because Donovan Mitchell is certainly going to leave.
Right.
I think the Celtics do have a shot, but I wouldn't bet on this Boston Celtics to win again next season. I don't think they've got back-to-back in them.
As someone who doesn't watch a whole lot of NBA, I always think it's interesting. Teams like the Cavs, these teams that win 50 games, but everyone knows they're not a championship team.
Yeah.
Right.
That happens literally, seemingly every single year. I remember the Hawks like 6-7 years ago when LeBron was still in Cleveland.
Yeah.
They won like 60 games.
60 games.
They won 60 games, and at the same time, like they probably I wasn't keeping close odds on the championship odds there. They couldn't have been top 3 in odds. So like it's just funny how the NBA has. It's almost like they have a try-hard team every year. It's just like these other teams are like, yeah, I mean, we're going to make the playoffs. We just got to make sure everyone's healthy before we get there. And there's one team's like, no. We're good. We are really good. I promise we're good. Like, we're going to win 60 games. I promise we're good. And then it's just like, they're just not.
Yeah. Listen, that's it for NBA talk. The NBA season has concluded on June 17th. So shout out to the NBA. It takes a long time for them to finish their season. But nonetheless, it's over. Congratulations to the Boston Celtics. We're going to take a break. ESPN 1410 Wing AM, the best sports coverage in the Miami Valley. We'll be right back. And welcome back in. We are Chatterbox Sports Off the Bench. Welcome on in. It is a glorious day. It is a Tuesday, June 18th. And I'll tell you what right now. Are the vibes any lower? Could the vibes get any lower for the Cincinnati Reds after losing 5 of 7, Jacob?
Yes.
I think so too.
Much.
They
were much lower than that.
This is just the part of the season. I'll continue to reiterate it. Unless they go on a historic losing streak, these games to me are just meh. Just try to win some. Don't get swept. Just try to win some.
I'm with you.
I will say this: if they were to get swept here in Pittsburgh, I'm gonna pout. I'm gonna cry and I'm gonna pout.
You know what?
What's that?
I'll pout with you.
Thank you.
If we get swept, we can pout together.
Thank you. But that's it. The Reds lose last night. Again, Elly De La Cruz was good. We're going to talk about that pretty much right about now. Elly De La Cruz went 3 for 4. stole a base. But Elly De La Cruz, again, he makes these mistakes that the fan base, I don't know if it's just a portion of it, I don't know what it is. And I don't really know the rules when it comes to criticizing Elly De La Cruz. Because some of this fan base says you can't criticize him no matter what happens. If he was 0 for 200 with 175 strikeouts and 45 errors, I would still be told, well, he's young and he can still be good and yada, yada, yada. That's not the case. Elly's been a great player this year, definitely the Reds' best player without question offensively. So I'm not going to sit here and complain about Elly De La Cruz's errors, but saying that, it's a little frustrating watching your shortstop botch routine plays on a somewhat consistent basis. He leads the league in errors with 15. And whether or not you want to count errors as a real stat, that's up to you. That's your prerogative. But I look at it and I say that's a heck of a lot for a shortstop that's very good at defense, or supposed to be. And he has the athleticism to make the superstar plays. Everybody knows that. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's able to make the diving catch, the basket catches 40 feet into left field. To make the diving catch, he throws 150 from shortstop to first base. He's able to do it all. But it seems like every once in a while seems pretty consistently once a week, twice a week, it's just a routine ground ball hit to him, and he just can't make a play. At some point, I'd like him to grow out of it. Again, I'm not going to worry about it. I'd be more worried about the pickoffs and all the base running mistakes the Reds make this season. But it seemed like the Elly De La Cruz haters last night came out of their woodwork and were like, you know what, Elly De La Cruz, bad defender, bad at baseball.
The error number's high. He leads the league in errors.
50% more
can't argue
errors.
that.
50% more errors than the second place.
It's a lot of errors. He also has 5 outs above average on the year, which is first on the Reds by more than double. He's 89th
top 10 in the league, right?
89th fielding run value, 89th percentile fielding run value at 4. And, he obviously leads the league in sprint speed and distance covered from shortstop. So it's kind of a give and take. I think the amount of times he does make errors, obviously it's frustrating. A two-hopper to shortstop, that's an easy double play. You chalk it up in your brain, and then you see it, squirt through his glove, and you get upset. That's obvious. Everyone will. I do too. But the thing is, he makes up for it in other ways. And sure, you'd rather have it all. And when he does bring it all together, he will be one of the best defensive players in the entire league. But, the fact that he still has 15 errors and he's considered a top 10 defender by advanced metrics in all of baseball, it proves just how much of a difference he makes. We talk about when he's hitting, when he slumps hitting. Yeah. And he still makes a difference on the base paths and stuff like that. It's the same with his fielding. I mean, he leads the league in errors, and he's a top 10 defender by advanced metrics.
The Elly De La Cruz conversation I find so interesting because it almost seems like the spearhead on the factions of Reds fandom just coming to a point right then and there. It's the old fans, the guys that like the counting numbers, they like the batting average, they like the errors, they like what they see on the field, and it's very altruistic, right? Like, this is the game that I've understood since I was a kid. I've got it. I don't need to learn anything more. And then there's the new ones like, hey, there's different ways to look at this. And all the flack that Elly De La Cruz had 3 hits yesterday. He had a great game. He had a great game. The error meant nothing. It was in the 3rd inning, no runs scored. So it meant nothing. All of this conversation, is it just of pushback of, hey, I was told that this player was otherworldly. He's proving quickly to be almost otherworldly. He's proving not only to be the best player on the Cincinnati Reds, but one of the best players in the league. But there's this portion of the fan base that I think not only has made their mind up about Elly De La Cruz, but wants to be right about him. I think there's a portion of the fan base that wants Elly De La Cruz to fail because they want to be right about him. Not because of what it could mean to the team if he is as great as everyone says he is. And by the way, he's quickly becoming that. But they just want to be like, oh man, these people are telling me how great Elly De La Cruz is, but he makes a lot of errors and he strikes out a lot. Like they're grasping at straws. He's the stats, the more intrinsic stats that that or what the Major League front offices are basing their decisions off of show that he's not only a good defender, he's a great defender. But hey, he doesn't make the routine error routine play every once in a while. Yeah, but he makes a play that only he in Major League Baseball can make more times than he makes the error. I don't know. It's such a weird conversation when it comes to Elly De La Cruz. It's almost like these fans don't want to have a generational superstar. They'd rather have the old. They'd rather have the Luis Arises or the guys that play the game the old style way, that bat 280 and just that just hustle and stuff like that. And it's just a weird conversation.
It's the same conversation we had about Joey Votto for a long time in the city. Joey Votto was objectively the best Reds player we've had in, 25, 30 years in Cincinnati? And it seemed like a lot of the fan base was either A, mad at the contract he got, which right now wouldn't be a top 20 contract, or they were mad at Joey Votto media-wise or personality-wise. He wasn't entertaining. It didn't seem like he was grateful to be here or any of that nonsense. It seems like that's kind of what's going on with Elly De La Cruz for some reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just people looking for criticism or looking to be validated, like Reed alluded to. But it is nonsensical. I go on Red's Facebook just to laugh every once in a while.
Facebook's a great social media.
And I found that Facebook folks, they don't call him Elly De La Cruz. They just call him Cruz. So they'll refer to Elly De La Cruz as Cruz, and that's
Good.
how I.
33% of his last name.
Yeah.
That's how I know. Like, you don't watch Reds baseball and you're just here to cry and complain. But yeah, and I get the sentiment. I really do. I get the sentiment that I would like my shortstop to not commit egregious errors left and right. And when you have 15, that's a large number of errors. You can't deny that. You're on pace for 40-something errors in a season. That's a lot of errors. Saying that, everybody in this room is correct. He can make the outstanding play that 99% of shortstops in Major League Baseball can't do, and for that reason alone, he deserves to play at the shortstop position, no doubt about it. So that stuff, nonsense, water under the bridge to me, and I find that whole discourse kind of tired. I also find the David Bell discourse tired again, as they've lost 5 of 7. David Bell, people I saw last night. David Bell should be more worried about his team's play than other things, of the light show, yada, yada, yada. David Bell can only do what his team does. I don't know how many times I have to say it. David Bell is as good he's only as good as his team performs.
Right.
That's it. That's David Bell's role. If he puts in Lucas Sims in a high leverage spot, Lucas Sims has to come in and execute. And if he doesn't and he blows the game, that unfortunately falls on David Bell. Last night, they lose 4-1. Carson Spiers had to start the game. He went 6 innings. David Bell, is he responsible for the offense not producing any runs whatsoever? It's hard for me to say yes, he is responsible, because he's not.
And everyone hates him because he's monotone. Then he gets thrown out last night, and people think it's fake energy.
So it's the fan base is toxic. And that's
Right.
That's what Reed is most right about on the Reds. We have, and maybe
All
it is
fan bases are like this.
Maybe it is. Maybe all fan bases are like it, but it seems like the Reds fan base is so increasingly toxic that it's just miserable to be on Reds Twitter. I try to make jokes. I try to be as sarcastic as possible because I make myself laugh when I do it. But my God, it's just nonstop crying and whining, and we have to go through this season. It's June 18th. And you have a whole season left to play. You're a game and a half two games out of a wild card spot. It's whatever. I think the biggest story from last night, though, wasn't Elly De La Cruz. It was TJ Friedl.
Right.
I don't know how it's possible to have this consistent of an injury issue with the Reds team. At some point, it's not even bad luck. There's a serious issue here.
Right.
And again, TJ Friedl makes a spectacular diving play, forced to leave the game due to a hamstring. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to say. TJ Friedl is very important to the Reds' success. Very important for the Reds this season. Defensively, and not only that, especially offensively. So when we lose guys, and this is now the second time TJ Friedl's come up and has been injured, he said yesterday everything is fine, it looks like, but you can only take that with a grain of salt. As the Reds continue to deal with this, I don't know where you turn. I'm concerned that Matt McClain has an injury problem. I'm concerned Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo has an injury problem. TJ Friedl, Jonathan India, they have injury problems. But so many of them are bad luck. It's bad luck plays. You get hit in the wrist. You dive for a ball out in the outfield. Jonathan India is sitting on the third base side of the field, and he gets a foul ball hit at his knee. Stuff like that. Elly De La Cruz whizzes a ball, hits Noelvi Marte in the mouth.
Yeah.
That's the kind of injuries the Reds have had, and it seems like it's just an outrageous number. It seems like that number just continues. So I don't know what the plan is if TJ Friedl's going to miss time here. And in fact, I know what the plan is. It's have Stuart Fairchild run out there every day. But again, Stuart Fairchild's not an everyday center fielder.
Probably not, honestly. You play Benson in center and start Hurtubise, if I had to guess. Hurtubise has been pretty good defensively. And, he's been able to fight at the plate. Stu's so good in this role, I just wouldn't move him out of it.
And here's the thing about Stuart Fairchild. Not only is he a great defender, and I've been proven wrong on him time and time again, but the role he plays that Jacob alluded to is when you come in against a left-handed pitcher, Stuart's been phenomenal. He's been phenomenal. So to make him do something that he's not is just not going to help anybody. TJ Friedl injured. Hopefully it's not going to be a lingering thing. Take some time off. Go on the IL again. I'm okay with a 15-day IL stint if it means you're not going to get hurt the rest of the season. The issue is I know something else is going to happen later on. And the Reds have to just keep fighting through all this nonsense. The good news is Noelvi Marte should be back in, 9 days now? 10 days yesterday, 9 days now. And hopefully that'll replenish some of the much-needed energy the Reds need to get to the All-Star break somewhat healthy, somewhat intact. And God bless the starting pitching staff who has remained healthy this entire season.
The other thing Noelvi will allow is you probably play Candy at first, put Steer back in left, and you have a pretty serviceable outfield until Friedl can come back. So
the Reds will deal with
fine.
He's
He's making faces at Steer in the outfield. He's our everyday left fielder.
I think you need to change the days.
I wouldn't disagree.
The defense isn't good.
Charlie Condon.
Spencer Steer is the least of my worries.
Elly De La Cruz and Jamer Candelario are first and second in
correct
in errors.
They have a combined.
Jamer Candelario is -8 outs above average at third base. Do you want to guess what Spencer Steer is in left field? Because it's -7.
It's not good. It's not good.
25 combined errors by Candelario and Elly De La Cruz, and it's June 18th. So I mean, we can talk about Spencer Steer, but he has to play there. We don't have another choice.
Right.
Spencer Steer is good enough offensively to play every day, and defensively in left field, respectfully, it's just one of those things. Yeah, just catch a ball every once in a while.
Maybe.
But we got more Reds talk coming up next. Are the Reds dead? Because that's what the fan base makes me think every time. Every time the Reds lose.
Didn't you cancel the season?
5 times, and if they lose tonight,
8-second clip.
And if they lose tonight, it'll be over again. But we'll talk about that and more coming up next. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We'll be right back with you. Welcome back in. We are off the bench. Chatterbox Sports. Elliot Rearing, Reed Mouse, Jacob Tissett, Jimmy Collins, Casey McAllister, all here for you. Casey, I want to talk to Casey. Casey,
what's up, Elliot?
Elly De La Cruz went 3 for 4 last night with a double.
Yeah.
He also stole a base.
Yeah.
But he committed an error.
Oh, no.
And he got picked off on the base path.
Ooh, that sounds bad.
Is Elly De La Cruz a major league talent level shortstop?
Send his butt to Chattanooga. I'm tired of Elly De La Cruz. Come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, he is legitimately the burning light that the Reds have. That's the only light, the only thing that elevates this team up right now is Elly De La Cruz. Everyone gets hurt, apparently, on the Reds. Everyone just sucks, apparently. I'm just tired of the Elly De La Cruz talk. At first, I was just joking about sending him to Chattanooga because I thought it was funny because people are just idiots. But now I feel like it's just gotten to a point where, anytime he has a bad game, people are just outraged. And he didn't even have a bad game yesterday. He had 3 hits yesterday. He's going to get caught stealing bases from time to time. Relax. The dude is phenomenal.
Elly De La Cruz, you are right, is the reason we watch Reds games right now.
Yeah.
That's the other part of it too, where if he commits a terrible error, and he did last, I can't defend the errors. The errors are bad, and I think it happens too much. If he finishes this season with 50-plus errors, I'm going to have a little bit of a worry for him at the shortstop position. And I think that's okay of me to have that, despite what he can do. Because I think that stat plays into the hypotheticals that is baseball, and it's like he could go out and make some superstar level plays. He could go do that. But I know what errors are, and errors are objective. You make a terrible throw over to first base on a consistent basis. You have trouble fielding the ball, flipping it to second base. I can see that. It's already happened. But Elly De La Cruz, what he provides for you, everything else is why we watch games. So the constant discourse around him being a bad defender, a bad base runner, making silly mistakes. How old is he, Jacob?
22.
He's 22 years old.
First time movies.
And I hate to do that bit. I hate to do the he's so young bit. But it's true. He's 22 years old. This is his second season, his first real season, his first whole season as a Red. If they did not have Elly De La Cruz this season, we probably would have 7 less wins, maybe more. So as we continue on throughout this season, and you look at what Elly's done and what he's been able to do, and then he makes one error last night, take it all into account. If you take him out of the shortstop role, who plays there? Who's able to play there?
Steer.
Spencer Steer? You want Jameer at short? Because I promise you what, if you put Jameer at short, he'll have 45 errors by the All-Star break. So everybody can calm down with the Elly De La Cruz discourse.
Do we think it's just a thing unique to Cincinnati, or do we think that is a thing that happens elsewhere where when a player is billed to be the best player on the team, Joey Votto, Elly De La Cruz, Joe Burrow to some extent, that there is a portion of the fan base that they almost can't do anything right. You know what I'm saying? Like the entire career of Joey Votto was marred, but he can't drive in the runs. Yeah, he walks a lot. But with runners on second and third, we need someone to bring him home. And same with Elly. Yeah, he can make the play that only he in Major League Baseball can make, but every once in a while the two-hopper gets buffed. Bum. Like, is that just a thing? Like, is that something we do as humans to where when someone's supposed to be the best, we almost knock them down a few pegs?
100%. It comes with that role. Okay. If you're the leader of the country, there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with what you have to say, what your politics are, yada yada yada. If you're the leader of the team, if you're the face of the franchise, and you make a mistake that respectfully a third grader wouldn't make, people are going to have issues with it. And that just comes with the territory of being a generational superstar and having that weight on your shoulder. Elly has to carry that weight every single night. Elly De La Cruz has to carry the weight of, if I don't get a hit here, nobody else behind me will. So I have to do that by myself. Nobody else is going to get to second base stealing. I have to do that by myself to give us a chance to put in a run. So yeah, 100%. There's a weight and there's a responsibility with being the face of a franchise, and it's unfortunate. But I think Elly De La Cruz has done actually a better job at it than Joey Votto did during his prime years. Because I think Joey Votto was elite. Obviously, he was elite. He's a Hall of Famer. But Joey Votto also kept to himself. He was very tame. Didn't speak a lot to the media. Didn't speak a lot to the fan base during his MVP type years. But then towards the end of the year, you saw that flame in Joey Votto where you loved him. And if Joey Votto was that way towards the beginning of the year, I don't think as many people would hate him. Because Elly De La Cruz, he's learning to speak English. He's trying to grow the game. He's an international superstar. And then all the plays he makes, the after game selfie videos, just trying to connect with the fan base. He's doing everything right. If you go on the streets of Cincinnati, he's the one player that everybody knows. Mm-hmm. And when he does something that, again, it's a routine mistake, everybody's going to notice it. It's just your eyes are drawn to him. So yeah, I think it's not just Cincinnati. I think that's every franchise player, every face of the franchise, and not just Major League Baseball, in any sport, in any job, in any position. Our eyes are drawn to you because you're our leader. And when you make that mistake, we're going to call you out on it. And that's all it is. When I have to keep going on Twitter and I see the David Bell stuff and I see the Elly De La Cruz complaints, it's just at what point do we just sit down and calm down? The Reds haven't been good in a long time. A long time. It's been, 1995 was the last advancement in the postseason? This isn't new. And I know the fan base is hungry. I'm hungry too. Listen, nobody wants a championship more than me. Nobody wants to make the postseason more than me. But at some point, you just have to be like, you know what? We got to follow this thing through. This is a young roster. Nick Kroll did it right, and we just got to hope it works. Because if it doesn't work, I don't know what we have then. And I can't even think about what if this doesn't work. Because then I just can't watch Reds games anymore. If Spencer Steer turns out to be a bust, if CES is not the 40 home run player that Reed likes to joke about. If we go down the list here and none of these players equate to what we think and what we saw last season for about a month stretch, where it looked like the Reds had a bright future. If we're not that, then what are you? So believe that it's a possibility. Believe that Elly De La Cruz is the guy you think he is. He's 22 years old. He's going to botch a ball every now and then. He's going to get picked off at first because he steals 40% of the time he gets on base. So relax. Try to enjoy the positives here. I know that's hard to say when your team doesn't win anything, ever. But you have to try. You have to try because, and this is where the positive Reds fans like Nick Kirby, like Craig Sandlin, like Claiborne Snowden, and all the positive Reds fans, Bryce Spalding on Reds Twitter, this is where you're right. You have to try to cheer. You can't. What's the point of sitting here for 162 games and getting mad at everybody every single night? Fire David Bell. Fire David Bell. Okay, fire him. Freddie Benavides takes over. Then what happens? He loses 4 of his first 5. He gets fired too. Just try to somewhat enjoy this. I don't know, and I can't speak for Jimmy over there, and I can't speak for Reed. But when you have a generational superstar like Elly De La Cruz, there's not a lot of MLB teams that have that. We have one of the biggest names in baseball. So let's not pick on him every single night for the silliest mistakes, especially when he gets on base 3 times.
That was good.
That was good. Thank you.
That was great. That was
Glad you
great.
got that off your chest.
That was
Thank you.
great. Yeah.
That's the most positive Elliot.
Yes, that
a
was
good clip
great,
right
Elliot.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just honestly, both sides get on my nerves, the positive side and the negative side. And last night, I legitimately turned the game off. Once Elly made the error in the third, I think I turned it off a little bit before that because I got pissed at Carson Spiers. Shout out to you, buddy.
Well, I want to talk about Carson Spiers.
We can talk about him.
Well,
I was just gonna say I got tired of all the negativity on Reds Twitter. It was really the first time this season that I'm like, you know what? It's June 18th, June 17th. Let's calm down. And Craig Sandlin, kind of ironic coming from a guy that declared the season dead over a month ago. Correct. But what do you want me to do? I can't change who I am, Craig, and you can't change who you are. I'm just saying that every once in a while, try to let the positive light shine through. And for the record, I am trying. I'm trying to be less negative.
Speaking of settling in and
Sure.
letting the positive light, Carson Spiers obviously struggled through the first 2 innings, but he made it 6 innings. The final 4 innings, I think he only allowed 2 base runners.
It's almost like when a guy's really good coming out of the pen, you shouldn't just start him. Right?
The innings that he struggled were the first 2 innings.
That's
he
what
came
I'm
out
saying.
there. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It seemed like he settled in. Do you think he earned? How many more starts? Do you think he's going to be a permanent part of this rotation?
I don't know why he would be. It's the same thing you see with Nick Martinez. He's great in the bullpen. You throw him to start, and he allows 5 runs in the first 2 innings every time. Why mess with something that's good? We can use Brent Suter to open for.
That's so interesting about baseball, by the way. That it's in theory it's the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Like you're coming in there. It's the first your first 2 innings being the third or fourth versus the first and second. It's different, and it's almost like, is it just the progress, the long getting ready for the game? When you're a bullpen guy, yeah, you get loose and everything like that, but when you're a starter, you prepare for 2 hours before the game. You get ready for 2 hours. It's just interesting. It really is. But Carson Spiers, he got through. 4 runs in 6 innings. That's not good, but it's not. It doesn't give you you didn't lose the game because of it. When you're facing Paul Skenes, certainly that makes it harder.
The options are Graham Ashcraft, who would have given you 5 innings and 4 runs, or Carson Spiers, who gave me 6 innings and 4 runs.
But if Carson Spiers can give me 4 innings scoreless out of the bullpen all the time, Why would I? You see what I mean?
Yeah, but how many times? The only times he comes in 4 innings out of the bullpen like that are when the Reds are getting killed
right.
or when they're winning. So that's not a realistic
I
expectation.
feel like his ceiling's probably higher than Ashcraft's too. We know what Ashcraft is. Maybe Spiers can be better.
I think so. Ashcraft's whole thing was that he wasn't going long in games.
Right.
He was giving up the runs. He's a 5th guy in the rotation. Do I trust Carson Spiers to go out every night and get me wins? No. But I think he can eat innings, and I think that's his job right now. If you do it your method, and I actually don't hate your method, if you go Brent Suter first inning and then he comes in, I think it's worked for Nick Martinez. I think Luke Weaver, believe it or not, he could have used that as well. Because Luke Weaver, a lot of Luke Weaver's damage came in those first couple innings, and then he settled in and somehow managed to get a win. But Carson Spiers, I think I take a positive. I think that was a positive outing from Carson Spiers.
Yeah, okay.
4 runs in 6 innings, 5 strikeouts. I think it was better than what Graham Ashcraft would have given me, and I think that's the bar right now. Until Brandon Williamson's healthy and ready to go, Graham Ashcraft is just waiting in the wings until Carson Spiers blows up, and Carson Spiers is waiting until Ashcraft can prove himself. It's vice versa.
Did we ever get an update on Williamson after the IL
debate? I don't think it's good though. From everything that I'm seeing, it was a pretty decent setback, but could be wrong on that too. Nobody knows anything about these injuries that the Reds face.
Apparently the Reds don't either. So.
Correct. That's the other part of it.
Can we get new equipment in there? Can we get new equipment at JVP?
I would like to have new equipment.
How grainy are these X-ray pictures that they can't read?
Well,
when Nico Horner's taking an X-ray and it comes back inconclusive, a picture's inconclusive? What? I'm not a doctor.
Do you see the vending machine that the Reds still have in there with a hot pocket from 1923?
The sopping wet ham and cheese.
Yeah, it's just.
They had an egg salad sandwich. How wet is that? How wet is that egg salad sandwich?
Sopping.
Yeah.
Sloppy steaks.
Sloppy steaks indeed.
Final thing I'll say before we go to break: did Paul Skenes live up to the hype? And where does he rank?
He's nasty.
Under on strikeouts. Cash.
It was like 9.
8.5.
It was 9.
By the way, fun fact, and this is shout out to Book It with Trent. No free ads. That guy's a terrible gambler, but he gave me this stat: 92% of the time this season, when somebody is playing the Reds, they're under cashes. The under strikeouts cash. So.
How?
Really?
Oh yeah.
Good for the Reds.
But they have Will Benson and Elly De La Cruz who seem to strike out twice a game.
All right, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jim.
I was going to say, before we go to break, where does he compare in like other phenoms? Because I think
we should save it for next segment.
Okay.
I think we should save it because
Tease.
because I want to talk about that as well. We're going to break. ESPN 1410 Wing AM. Casey, I think that was our 4th segment. I'm almost positive that was our 4th segment. I've honestly lost track, but that is it. ESPN 1410. We'll be right back. YouTube listeners or watchers, Casey McAllister up next.
All right, I think you would be correct. Usually around this time is when we do ads. I think that's our 4th segment. It just works out perfectly for it to be that way. So let's get into the ads. Encore Technologies, they provide IT solutions for a data-centered world. The suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
That's right, Jimbo. Productivity. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. Let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. Honey water. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Made right across the street. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result being a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. Also, some other just housekeeping things. Drop a like. Tell a friend about the show. Spread it. We would appreciate that. Let's try to grow. Helps us out a lot. We have box lunch right after this.
Yep, box lunch right after this, and then the baseball video will be released at 2 p.m. for the members. So you'll see me pitch against these guys. I sent out a tweet yesterday teasing which of these swings was put in play.
Jimmy Barrels.
You'll be surprised to find out. You'll be surprised to find out.
Casey, what I want to start doing when we throw it over to you, because it seems like you've been quiet on the show lately. I want a Casey's Minute. Every show, I want a Casey's Minute where you come out and you give your thoughts of the day. I'll start the clock right now. This will be the first time we do it. The Casey Minute. Casey, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts? Ooh. I mean, I already got some of the stuff off my chest about Elly De La Cruz, so I won't talk about Reds as much in this minute. Celtics, I mean, they were pretty good. They end up winning the NBA Finals. That was something. I mean, we had the odds were +1 something at the beginning of the playoffs for them to win the championship. I think they were like one of the biggest favored champions in all of professional sports. Who would have guessed that they would have win the whole thing? So
Who would have guessed?
yeah, that was pretty interesting. NHL Finals.
Whoa!
They're coming up today. Oilers and the Panthers, right?
Yep.
I am hoping that maybe I'll get into it more next year because I felt like
Missed it this year?
Yeah, I missed it this year.
Just a little late.
Just was a little late, Just couldn't get hooked onto it. I was too busy watching Game of Thrones and House of Dragons. So, man, maybe next time.
Casey's Minute. Do you like that segment?
Yeah.
Presented
it's a
by
nice little
Casey.
segment.
Presented by Casey.
Yeah. Very nice.
We were talking about things we can do this week as well. It looks like, as of tomorrow, I will be going down to FC Cincinnati, and I'll be doing Man on the Street. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to be nice to the soccer fans. I'm going to
By soccer, you mean football.
And by football, I
Football.
mean soccer.
And this is why nobody watches. But I'm
You're
going to
just
go down
gonna
there and I'm
bully
going to
them?
try. What was that, Jim?
You're just gonna be mean to them.
Yeah.
I'm going to try not to be mean.
Yeah, probably.
I'm not. I'm going to try not to be mean.
I won't let him be mean. I'm going
to try to be.
You gonna go to the game?
Absolutely.
No.
You gonna sing?
It's trivia night.
I'm going to the
Absolutely
game.
not.
You're going?
Yep.
I was looking at tickets.
Are you gonna sing? Don't they sing the entire game?
Well,
Entire match?
they
Sing the entire match?
Yeah, they do.
They
It's
chant.
chant.
FCC's
It's
musical?
chanting.
Yes. Well,
It's
that'd be an
chanting.
opera.
Okay.
Let's
There's like
let's
drums
clarify.
and they're
It's
like
chanting.
"Oh," the entire time.
Just no interest.
I like those tweets that'll be like going to an American football game, defense. Going to an English football game and they sing songs about how some wing's a wanka.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's an incredible they have a full song and the whole stadium knows it.
It's very funny. They're organized.
Who is a better song? FC Cincinnati with any of their songs, or Michigan with Mr. Brightside?
My least favorite song in the entire world for 18 weeks a year.
Yeah, I guess.
Can you imagine being the first white guy to hear Mr. Brightside?
No, no. The joy would be, astronomical.
Yeah.
Do you think he fell to his knees?
Yeah. Let's see. What?
Do you think he fell to his knees when he heard that song?
I have to, almost.
Do you ever heard the story about that song? He was in a music class and in college and he had to write a song. So he came up with that song and he wrote it and it's the most repetitive song of all time. And he turned it in. It was like the morning of, like an hour before class. He just threw it together, and it became the song it is today.
Look at that.
How about that?
What's a better song, that or Hey There Delilah from the Plain White Tees? Literally just being like a stalker song.
What about Wagwan
yeah.
Delilah by Drake?
We doing Drake today?
Drake dropped Wagwan Delilah a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
Are you pro Drake?
Oh, Kendrick.
Alex wants to know why I'll be wearing Chatterbox gear for Man on the Street. Listen, if I have a Chatterbox shirt, I'll wear it. If I don't, I won't. That's the deal. If I go home and you guys know my repertoire of shirts. So if I have it available to me, I'll wear it. If I don't,
It'll
in the
probably
wash.
be a plain blue tee.
Probably. And when everybody's going to have to be okay with it.
Or it'll be that new FC Luciano Acosta jersey that you buy when you get down
Acosta?
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right, Casey?
Costa.
Oh.
Same thing.
Jimmy Soccer.
Whatever.
Jimmy Kicks. 5 seconds of silence for the radio. Welcome back in. We are off the
Long
bench.
5 seconds.
What is that?
Presented by. Come on. We presented by United Dairy Farmers. We are Chatterbox Sports. Welcome on in. If you're listening in your car or radio, we appreciate you very much.
If you're listening in your radio, I have questions.
You could. If
the
radio,
know.
if the radio's big enough. If the radio's big
Did you
enough.
build a door?
Yes.
Did you build the radio around yourself?
Yes. That's what it is.
Well,
but we are
People are
talking.
innovative in the Miami Valley.
That's correct. That's the best. It's the home of the best sports coverage in the Miami Valley. And the Miami Valley is.
The valley between the two Miami rivers, the Great Miami and the Little
Wow.
Miami.
Wow.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Everyone.
Continuing on here with Paul Skenes, the Paul Skenes conversation. Reed asked before the break, did he live up to the hype? Was Paul Skenes, was Paul Skenes worth the wait? Is he good enough? The answer is yes. Yeah. Watching him last night was incredible. He clearly knows something that the Reds don't. I disagreed with I disagreed with the Trey's take last night that Paul Skenes' arm is going to give out in a year and a half. But
I mean, it's like
He's playing the numbers.
You said 2 to
I
3
guess
years.
I guess you're right. Like it's been happening at a very high clip, so it might be. It's just like I think that's a kind of
We'll
crazy.
cross that first TJ off and be back in a year and be all right.
that's just
so that's
like-
how it works now.
I feel like that's just a crazy thing to project, but
Yeah.
But it's beside the point. Yeah, I was just wondering, like, where does Paul Skenes rank in terms of hype around a player in your lifetime when it comes to MLB? Because we do this every couple years.
Yeah.
The biggest being Bryce Harper.
Right.
I would say the second biggest, somewhere between the Steven Strasburg, Chris Bryant, Fernando Tatis range. And I'd put Paul Skenes in like that third tier.
Paul Skenes is his expectations grow because he just came in so quickly after winning a
Yeah.
national championship, breaking the SEC strikeouts record, so he was always on top. I mean, a name that I don't like to say, but one of the biggest prospects coming up that I remember is Wander Franco.
yeah.
I mean,
Franco,
the expectations
yeah.
for him when he was coming up, he signed that contract pretty early in his career. He was pretty big time.
Elly De La Cruz, when he came up, I
sure.
would say nobody made a bigger impact right off the bat than Elly De La Cruz. And saying what you want about him defensively, I think offensively he gave us immediate gratification. So that was really cool to see. But yeah, Paul Skenes 4-0 in his first 4 games, and now he has a 2.2 ERA.
He's pitched like 7 times now, right?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Either way, he's been absolutely incredible, and yeah, it's cool to see guys like that come up. And obviously, by the way, we had the under in the Livy Dunn appearances that cashed. They did
Yeah.
not talk about Livy Dunn that much.
She's in the Hamptons.
She's in the Hamptons,
So-
not in Pittsburgh.
So no Livy Dunn discourse.
Bad girlfriend? Is that what we want to talk about on the
That's
show?
the last segment of the show. Stay
Is that
tuned.
the last?
Stay
Is,
tuned.
is that the last segment?
Yeah.
Will we ever see? Obviously, but how long until we see someone hyped as much as Bryce Harper was? Because we've mentioned guys getting hyped up before, but I don't know if you guys remember. Bryce Harper was talked about when he was 16. He was one of the first viral athletes.
Cover Sports Illustrated 16.
I remember watching YouTube videos when he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
Of him hitting balls at Tropicana Field off the scoreboard when he was 16, and then he gets into the league, and it's actually, now that we bring it up, it's pretty similar to what's going on with like Caitlin Clark and the That happened with Bryce Harper.
yeah.
Everyone hated it. Jonathan Papelbon choked him
Choked him.
in his own. That's his teammate.
Papelbon just tweeted about that.
Choked him in his own dugout.
Crazy.
The Bryce Harper, that's a clown question, bro. Like, it was a media circus around Bryce Harper when it came up. Now, I don't think we've seen anything like that since. And I'm wondering if we'll ever see that again. Obviously, I'm too young for, like, when Griffey came up and maybe when Chipper Jones came up, other huge prospects. But it is fair to talk about that. Very rarely does a prospect get hyped that much, and he isn't at least somewhat of a valuable piece. They can get hurt and they can go by the wayside, but it's almost, I can't think of a player that's ever just immediately been panned when he's been hyped that much.
So this is the list according to Fox Sports, the most hyped athletes of all time. LeBron James, number 1.
Yep.
Number 2, John Elway. Don't remember that, but I'm sure that's fine.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Probably.
That's
3 is Reed's guy, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, again, was the baseball LeBron, I think, for a while. So young. And yeah, he lived up to the hype.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer.
One guy that I felt got close hype-wise was Jackson Holliday, and then he came up and stunk.
Stunk.
Yeah.
But, when when this whole offseason and they didn't bring him up for opening day, the talk about him not being up was pretty loud for a prospect.
Yeah, I remember when Elly came up, I think Kirby told me this one time, but he's like, we have all this hype around Elly De La Cruz, and Elly De La Cruz came up and he showed out pretty quickly. I remember we were saying, like, Jackson Holliday was more hyped at the time when Elly was coming up, because I think Elly on some boards was the first overall prospect, but on some boards he was the second behind Jackson Holliday.
Andrew Luck is another name.
Andrew Luck came right away, was phenomenal.
Suck for Luck. Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, sure.
Patrick Ewing.
That's one of my favorite
They
sports
rigged
conspiracy.
They rigged the not an election.
Really?
They rigged
You
the
never heard
draft.
this?
No.
So Patrick Ewing went to Georgetown, national champion, and
Froze the envelope.
yeah, they did the draft lottery. It was the first year, I believe, of the draft lottery, and it was for Patrick Ewing, best prospect to come out at this time, and they wanted to give him to I think it was between there and like Indianapolis, right? And what the rumor is that they froze the Knicks envelope so that he reached into the hopper and he just felt around until he felt a cold envelope and he picked it out. It's like, oh, the Knicks get the first overall pick.
Really?
Yeah, that's a conspiracy.
How about that? Ken Griffey Jr.
Once again, these are all like Skenes isn't on the same level as this.
A-Rod, Sidney Crosby,
Sid the Kid, I remember him.
Shaq.
Wemby was hyped pretty
Wemby
high.
was a big deal.
Wemby was hyped pretty
I've
high.
heard about Wemby since he was about 16.
Yeah.
Zion.
But I guess the point is I'm making is how often do these hyped prospects just become nothing? And it's very, very rare. Like a few prospects that I remember, and they didn't even fizzle. Like I'm thinking of like Justin Upton, Delman Young. You guys don't even remember him. He was a number 1 overall prospect, and he was phenomenal. You're yawning a lot today.
I can't stop. It's whenever I sit in these chairs, for some reason I yawn. I legitimately can't stop.
I've noticed in these chairs that this isn't as seasoned as your guys', so I sit up a little higher.
Yeah.
That's good for you.
I sit up a little higher.
You get a little boost.
Like Jacob, you were an inch taller than me, but just by the way
this
we're sitting in these chairs.
Concave cushion down
Right.
here.
I'm at least 2 inches taller sitting.
Listen, I try. When I was over there, it kept me awake consistently. But when I sit in these chairs, for some reason, it's like my body's like telling me, all right, Alec, go to bed. It's like, no, I got to stay awake. I got to do a very serious sports talk show. Who is the biggest bust ever?
Ever?
Ever. Let's say one of the biggest busts.
In just baseball?
Baseball.
I don't know.
I mean, recent memory, Jurickson Profar was the number 1 prospect as a shortstop.
He's been good lately, though.
Jurkison Profar has been a good player.
He's
Wasn't
good. He's a good player.
He's probably
but
gonna be
the
an
number
all-star
1
this year.
prospect as a shortstop, and he never even played shortstop in the major.
I guess you're right. I guess he hasn't been that good, but he's been good this year. I think he was
Yeah,
leading
no,
the National
he's a
League.
borderline all-star. I'm just saying, for what he was expected to be.
Yeah. Well, they had on Elvis Andrus at the time, right? He played shortstop when he came up. Profar did. Give me, Wander Franco.
Yeah.
Might never play again.
Josh Hamilton, does he count?
So what's interesting about Josh Hamilton, I don't know if you guys, how much you know about the story. So he was the first overall pick in 99, I believe, or
Yep.
2000. And he didn't make his debut for 7 years because he got injured and then obviously had off-field issues. He was drafted in the Rule 5 draft. I don't know if you guys know what the Rule 5 draft is, how it works. But he was drafted by the Cubs. And the Cubs immediately traded him to the Reds. They made a deal. The Reds made a backdoor deal with the Cubs and said, hey, you draft this guy, we'll give you money or something like that. And you just bring him over here, and that's how the Reds got Josh Hamilton.
Cool.
Interesting. I'm seeing Victor Robles is one of them.
Robles?
Nick Senzel is one of them. I think.
Yeah, he was a big.
I think
big-time
Nick
prospect.
Senzel was a big time.
Josh Hamilton won an MVP, though.
Yeah, but what could have been? He could have been one of the better. He could have been a Hall of Famer if had his career continued.
How old was he when he finally got to the league? I'm pulling that up. Because he was a 27-year-old rookie, 26-year-old rookie. And then he was a 5-time All-Star. He finished top 10 in the MVP 3 times, 5-time All-Star. And then, fizzled out. I remember they were making a movie about him.
Really?
They were making a movie about Josh Hamilton because of the story, because of the drug use and everything like that. And while it was in production, he fell into drug use again. That's what got him out of the league. And then so they canned the movie.
Wow.
How about? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think Josh Hamilton qualifies as a bust just because he won an MVP. But
4 home runs, yeah. I loved watching Josh Hamilton. Couldn't hit during the day.
was that a real thing?
Yeah, that's where I learned about this thing called blue guys with blue eyes have lower OPS and batting average numbers during the day.
It's a crazy stat.
That's an outrageous stat.
Yeah.
I was trying to think. Javier, they're saying Javier Baez,
They just like taking shots at Javier Baez. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Unwarranted.
Delman Young.
Delman Young is
Delman
the one
Young has the lowest B WAR of any number 1 prospect ever.
Really?
Yeah.
3.2. Jurickson Profar at 5, second to last. Bobby Witt Jr. third to last.
You ready
He's
for
been
this?
Up for 2 years at 5.5.
Josh Hamilton played 1,000 games. He batted over 300 at night with an on-base percentage at 350 and slugged 536. During the day, he batted 250 and slugged 430. 100 points
That's
on,
crazy.
on
I also
slug
have a-
and 50 points on batting average.
Fun Delman Young stat. In 2012, in the American League Championship Series, he was named Series MVP after hitting 353 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs in the Tigers' 4-game sweep of the Yankees.
I forgot that he played for the Tigers. Delman Young used to play MLB The Show. Trade for him, then you could get like A-Rod or Miguel Cabrera for him.
Really?
Oh yeah, he was the number 1 overall prospect. He finished second in Rookie of the Year voting and just never. I mean, he played 10 years in the league, but hit 100 home runs, but was never great.
Interesting. By the way, and I forgot to mention this during headlines. The Brandon Ayuk thing. I was going to bring this up.
Yeah, we
and
can talk about this.
Brandon Ayuk. So he was in a TikTok. He was in a TikTok and was on the phone with Jaden Daniels, his college teammate. And he said, quote, the 49ers don't want him back. Or he didn't say the 49ers. He just said, they don't want me back. And then I think they laughed. I think social media is like, social media, and everybody knows this, it's not great for anybody's mental health, mental well-being, yada, yada, yada. It's going to get people in trouble. It's already gotten people in trouble. It'll continue to get people in trouble. This should not even be a story. But him coming out and saying this, the 49ers don't want him on a TikTok, surely that relationship's now cooked. I mean, I don't think that the 49ers are going to bring him back at all. And him getting that leaked on something like that, so silly to me.
I made a bold statement that the 49ers will take Deebo Samuel over Ayuk because I think Deebo was...
Take Debo, or keep Debo and trade Ayuk?
Yeah, because they clearly got to do something there in the near future. But I think I'm coming back on that because I thought Deebo was way more valuable in like the multiple things he does. But Ayuk, there's something about being just a traditional number 1 receiver that makes it hard to walk away from Ayuk, and he's a little younger and everything like that. So
Yeah, in my opinion, I think if all things are equal contract-wise, which it seems like they will be, I don't know how you would go Deebo Samuel over Ayuk. I mean, Deebo hasn't really won on the outside since like his rookie year in the league. They've lined him up on the inside, which obviously he's great at what he does. He's pseudo running back, the way he catches the screens and can create space underneath. But yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk, I mean, he took their team to another level when he started playing as a true number 1 wide receiver, 2 years ago when he really made that step. That offense looks completely different. It's freed up Deebo quite a bit. Something to remember with Ayuk is he's under contract. Like there's no
Really?
He's under contract for this year. It's the last year of his 4-year rookie deal, and so I know it's a lot about him leaving and they might trade him or whatever, but it's not even a T. Higgins situation where he needs to sign a tag and he could sit out. He's under contract this season, so he'll be there and he'll play.
That's crazy. We're going to talk about that and a little bit more coming up next on ESPN 1410 Wing AM. We are off the bench. We'll see you in a bit. Final segment of the day. How's everybody doing? That's rhetorical because you can't answer me when you're watching at home or if you're listening in your car or on your radio. But welcome back in. Final segment of the day. I'll tell you what. I've been seeing a lot of the comments here. Elliot, you're a hypocrite. Yada yada yada. Elliot, Reds fandom. Everybody hates you because you're so negative. But listen.
do you think they hate you in the?
I think so. I think some of them do. Sure. I think some of Reds fans hate me. No doubt about it. Mark Fetters, $10 super chat. For the love of God, get a new table.
New look coming soon. New look to the
New look is coming soon.
New look.
to the show's
New
coming
look to the
soon.
show.
Trace is coming back. Trace is going to host. Tom's going to host. We're just going right back. It's the expansion. But listen, I think if we all calm down, if the Reds win tonight, I'll declare the season officially back on.
So it's off right now?
For some, not for me. But I'll declare
So
it
why
back
would
on.
you declare it back on?
Can you
if
declare
you-
it back on for those?
Because I want to declare
How do you
it back
declare it
on.
for somebody else?
Because I want my 6-second clip on Twitter of me declaring the season back on. That's what I want. I still have not, there hasn't been another clip of Kirby of showing me that I'm saying the season's back on. So if they win tonight, I'm going to come in here tomorrow
That
and I'm going to
bugged
say
you that he did that.
The season's well, it was just 6 seconds. It could have been a longer clip. It could have been 15 seconds or 30. But
It did well. It did well.
It did.
And are we in the clicks business?
That's true. Are we in the clicks business or not? And that's what we're in. We are in the clicks business. Fire David Bell, a.k.a. I believe that is Sir Boy. I have seen nothing that suggests anyone hating you, Elliot. Not yet. Not yet, Sir Boy, but eventually.
Elliot thinks I hate him.
Correct. And I think I'm right on that.
We'll see.
If we want to do just a little quick more on the Reds real quick.
Sure.
We're talking about how excited we are for Noelvi to come back.
Yeah.
An anonymous Twitter user, we don't have to say names, through 22 at-bats in AAA, Noelvi has 4 hits, good for a 182 average with no walks and has struck out 7 times. He's eligible to return on the 27th, which is 9 days away. The Reds are going to need him to get hot or he'll likely be optioned to AAA and remain there. Do we think that that's an option for Noelvi to not come up to the big league club?
Almost 2 home runs. You left that out.
That's true.
You like that one.
Jimmy got a smile on his face tweeting that.
I don't think it's a possibility, no. I think he's going to...
I don't either.
I think he's going, especially if TJ Friedl's missing games. We need somebody to produce offensively. Noelvi's going to come back. But now I will say this, and maybe I'm wrong for saying this. If they were completely healthy, if we had Matt McClain,
I don't think he'd come up right away.
I would say don't bring him up.
But now,
Now you
with
have to.
Friedl out, I don't really know how you don't.
You'd have to.
Otherwise, you're playing Hurtubise or Espinal every day.
Not going to happen. So yeah, he's going to be up and he's going to produce for the Reds. I believe that, and hopefully he doesn't produce too much. I just want him to produce just enough.
That's good.
Not like I don't want 3 home run games. I just want 1 home run games. That's what I want from Noelvi Marte. But yeah, he'll be up.
Yeah, I think you have a forced hand here. If you have MLB players that are ready to play, you have to play them.
Correct. Do you think he will make the impact that he did last year? 19-game hitting streak and yada, yada, yada.
No, I don't think that's fair to say. I think he'll be better than anything we've had at third base this year defensively, and I think
True.
he'll be at least an average bat in this lineup, hitting 230, 240.
Certainly is going to be an improvement at third base, right? Like it's going to be, it can't get worse there, hopefully. So, yeah, that's going to be an improvement to this team.
100%. So the Reds will have that to look forward to coming up soon.
There's been talk about the Reds. I know it's been brought up on Chatterbox Reds, and I know you guys have talked about replacing Alexis Diaz at the closer role. I don't know what your guys' take on it. The Reds have the fewest blown saves in Major League Baseball.
He tries his hardest, though.
By the next closest is almost double what the Reds have.
Yeah.
The Reds have 4 blown saves.
I mean, we can do the Alexis Diaz game. You take out his 3 blown saves or whatever it is, and he's a top 10 reliever in baseball. But it's hard to remove that when you watch all the games and see him. I mean, he gets a save when he loads the bases with walks and allows a hit, and we gun a guy out at home. I feel like he's just not as dominant as you want, or really even as the wins and losses say he is.
I was debating this. I have a group chat that we just talked about the Reds, and I was debating this in that group chat. Where if he's not the closer anymore, then what's his role? Because do you trust him then to come out of the 6th inning? No, I don't either. And that's where I think the crux of the issue is, because if he's not a closer, I don't think he has a spot on this roster. I think he's a very good pitcher. He's shown that in his past. And even this year, outside of a couple games, and I know we can't discredit that. But saying all that, if he's not a closer, I don't think he should be up anymore. Because I don't want him to come in the 6th inning when 2 men are on and nobody's out, relieving Frankie Monta. I don't want him in that situation.
Trace made a great point. It's if you have a reliever that does what Alexis Diaz does anywhere other than the closer role, he'd already be in AAA.
Yeah. I do think Jacob's right, though. I mean, the same way we can't discount the fact that he had horrible outings to start this season, you also can't discount the fact that it's seemingly every time he comes into the game, he's giving up a base runner at least. And I know Nick Kirby tweeted out yesterday, and I saw it. It was, Lucas Sims has been very good as a Red. He was very good last season. He's been pretty good this season. And it's just it's such a thankless job. And when you're a closer,
being a relief pitcher seems like it sucks.
Yeah, it does. And even being a closer, you were talking about, does the best player on a team have that expectation?
You're under a microscope when you're the closer.
Nobody has a bigger microscope than the closer. Because your job, they flash the lights for you, it's a big party, you come in the game, and your job is very clear. You have to get 3 outs to win the game. It's the most important 3 outs of the game every single time. That's the job, that's the responsibility. And I don't think he's done a good job since midway through of last year. I think he's been objectively not very good since the middle of, I think, June of last season. And I think that's been a consistent issue. And should Fernando Cruz be in the closer role? Yeah, I think he's been the best reliever, so he should earn that spot. But at the same time, then Reds fans are going to continue, and myself included, they'll continue to complain that we need Fernando Cruz in the 6th when there's two runners on, nobody out. And the wheel will always continue, which is why I think Nick Kirby's actually said this before too. It should be a closer by committee. It should be you should have 2 guys that you're confident in, and they'll go whenever they can go, and the other guy will come in the 7th or the 8th in another high leverage spot. That's, I think, what the Reds could and should do going forward. Because again, Alexis Diaz, I don't think he's had it. He's not been comfortable. He hasn't been confident. He's been walking guys at an alarming rate. And yeah, I would, if I'm the Reds, I look to move him out of that role.
It's just interesting because is there a disconnect between the statistics and because in terms of just counting stats here, the Reds have 4 blown saves. The NL Central combined has 46.
Yeah,
46 blown saves.
How many by the Cubs?
16.
The Cubs have 16. The Pirates have 15, and then the Brewers and the Cardinals have 7 and 8 each.
The Reds have a pretty low number of save attempts, though.
That is true. They don't have obviously they take late leads and all that stuff. So when they win by more than 3 and stuff like that.
To answer your question, I think that the Reds should look to do it. My issue is if he's not good enough to be your closer, I certainly don't think he's good enough to be a 6th inning guy, 7th inning guy when you need, again, high leverage occasionally. So you're gonna have to go through it. You're gonna have to suffer through this year with him. Hopefully he continues to get better, and he has been better as of late. It's just that when his definition of better is still having runners on and then praying for double plays and getting out of the inning, out of the jam.
Why are people so against closer by committee? I just know a lot of people think it's super important to have a guy named closer, and I guess maybe I'm just naive. I don't really understand why people think that's so crucial.
It's just similar to it's just how you were taught baseball. Watching the Reds as a kid, this guy comes in the 8th, this guy comes in the 9th. You got your setup man, then you got your closer, and that's just how it is. And to be honest, that's not how it should be. The games are won and lost in the 6th and 7th inning more often than not. That's when you should throw. You call it high leverage. High leverage, you throw your best pitcher in the highest leverage situations. If you have prime Aroldis Chapman, if you have prime Francisco Rodriguez, if you have prime Craig Kimbrell, leaving him for the 9th inning is silly when the game can be won or lost in the 6th.
It seems like a waste, right?
Yes.
You could lose the chance for it to even be a save opportunity.
There was a very famous wild card game. I think it was 2016. It was between, I believe, the Yankees and the Orioles. And Zach Britton had a .38 ERA that year. Was getting serious Cy Young votes. I think he finished 3rd that year. He didn't throw in the wild card game because they were saving him for a lead. The game was tied multiple times. They saved Zach Britton for a lead. You didn't throw your best pitcher in a 1-game series.
Just because you name him something different than the other relievers.
Right.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Right.
And Craig says he's had a save in each of his last 8 save opportunities. In those 8 opportunities, in 5, I believe it's 5 of them, he's allowed at least a base runner, maybe 2 base runners. So I do think it's how you look when you close as well. If you're going to go out there and allow 1st and 3rd, 1 out, and get out of a jam every single time, I'm not going to sit up here and say that you're the world's best closer. It's just not going to happen. and I'm going to read those real quick if that's okay with you guys. It's so on June 14th, his last outing, we're well aware of what happened. 3 hits, 2 earned runs, and a walk. The outing before that, scoreless, perfect, great. That was against Cleveland. Outing before that, he gave up an earned run, a hit, and a walk against the Chicago Cubs. Outing before that, he allowed a walk. Outing before that, he allowed a walk. Outing before that, he allowed a hit, a walk, and a run. So it's just like it's not all, yeah, he's converting on save opportunities, but he's also had the benefit of the doubt, I feel like a couple of times where he's come in with like a 3-run buffer. And that is obviously the mark to get a save. It's 3 runs or less in the 9th inning. So yes, he has converted on those save opportunities, but how do you look and do you trust him? I don't know if I trust him. I'm not going to sit here and say I do.
Yeah, the days of me marking you down as a win when Alexis Diaz comes in are long gone.
I'll trade you Hector Neris for Alexis Diaz. Right.
Yeah, I'm good on that one.
No,
but,
thank you.
Yeah,
Adbert? You want Adbert?
No. Our bullpen, the Reds' bullpen has been very good.
Adbert. So the Reds have 4 blown saves all season. Adbert has 5 blown saves in 8 appearances. Not good.
What's his ERA?
I don't even want to look at it. Nick Kirby actually put this in the chat not too long ago. It is funny how quickly people turn on relief pitchers, and that's just how things go in every sport for specialists, like kickers, like Evan McPherson. We love Evan McPherson to death here in Cincinnati. All it takes is him missing a couple game-winning kicks that are gimmies. We turn on Evan McPherson very fast, very fast. Same way, I don't know what it'd particularly be for basketball. Maybe you just have a spot-up shooter, and he gets open looks and misses. And you're like, all right, well, what are you worth on this team anymore? You got a guy on your team that his lone role is he comes in the 9th inning either to run bases or to play defense, and he makes an error in the 9th inning. We don't need you anymore. It's just when you have a very defined role and you don't get to see a whole lot of them. It goes very quickly. Relief pitchers, God bless them. Talk about a life, and I know they're making millions of dollars or at least making a lot of money, but they are thrown in the hardest parts of the game, and if they don't do well, guess what? You got to go find a new job somewhere else. You got to go find a new city. I truly wonder if they ever buy homes in whatever town they play for. Like this, Lucas Sims is the longest tenured Red here. Does he have a home in Cincinnati?
I bet so. I bet he does.
Okay. Does Buck Farmer? It's just weird.
Jesse Winker did before when they shipped him off.
It's just wild.
I think a lot of people like playing in Cincinnati. They've come out and said that. I think Kyle Farmer was the one, the quote to say, nobody wants to leave Cincinnati. It's just it's just business. It's what happens.
Castellanos had a handful of quotes when he went to Philly with the
Correct.
same sentiment.
And it was just, that one still rubs me the wrong way. I know it was the right decision, but that one still rubs me the wrong way. But that is our show. We have gotten through it. That is 6 segments for you for Off the Bench, Chatterbox Sports. We're going to continue it live right now on YouTube. If you are listening, again, on your radio or in your car, go to the YouTube channel. Check us out. We'll be there, bull junking for the rest of the show, talking some hypotheticals. And we'll see you then. If not, have a great Tuesday. It's hot. Try to stay indoors, stay cool, drink some water, some Pawnee water, that is. And that's it. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, we're back.
All right, now we are good.
Casey's in charge of the post radio.
The final one, Casey's in charge. I look at Casey.
Oh, okay.
It's a little longer.
I have to.
So he has to cut it out.
I'm getting used to the system, which is, we're doing the next show right at 12, so I have to edit up the radio segments during this part of the show.
Okay.
That's why
Sorry.
Sorry
I ruined it.
No, it's okay.
Sorry, I ruined it.
Inside baseball.
We had those 5-second pauses today were
10-15.
Yeah, I mean every one of them was very long, so I jumped the gun on the final one, and that's on me. So I'm sorry.
Accountability is so important. So
yeah.
Thank you.
It makes it easier to edit, though.
I get it, but does the 10-second pause make it any better than an 8-second pause, 6-second pause?
Are we debating over a couple seconds.
Well, I just
that what
no.
we're
I'm
doing
just well. I'm only debating it because he said it makes it easier.
Second pause today was objectively long.
There was one.
We were going about 30 seconds in
There
there.
was one where it felt so. When I go to Catholic Mass here in town, after they do the homily, they sit down and they reflect for like 5-6 seconds, and then they pop up and get the Mass going. We have a very old priest at St. Joe's. I think he falls asleep every time. I've been to that Mass. He's done a Mass probably 60, 70 times that I've been to. And every single time he sits down after the homily, and he does this little head shake. And he's old. He's probably in his mid-70s. And like multiple times I've nudged Mariana. He's like, is he asleep? Like, what's going on here? Like, is this old guy asleep? There's a question I wanted to bring up to you guys. And we've talked about this before on this show. And that's about spring football. So obviously the XFL and the USFL combined to make the UFL. It concluded last week or something like that. Birmingham Stallions, best dynasty in sports, three-peat, 3 times in the league and a three-peat. But we've talked about this before because we don't believe that spring football will ever work. At least I had that opinion. I believe Elliot had that opinion. I don't remember your opinion, Jake.
I agree.
Viewership was up 30% this year. The championships, the conference championships from each league, and then the final had 1 million viewers, over 1 million viewers. And then the championship game had 30,000 people go to the game, at least 30,000 tickets sold. Is it working? Do you guys think that it is moving in the right direction, or do you think it's just a blip because they combined the leagues finally? Because we've been doing this for 4 years now, spring football. I just wonder, do you think it'll ever work? Are you slightly, because like I said, I think we were all saying that it won't work. Are you starting to believe that it might?
I really don't think so. Maybe it's trending the right way, but I think it has so much more to do. I mean, I know you guys aren't really huge college football guys, but I mean, I watch the Camellia Bowl on a Wednesday night at 3, and
Sure.
I have never tuned into spring football. And I feel like I would be the target market to watch that in the offseason when there is no football in Cincinnati without a hockey or basketball team. That's, kind of what they're looking at. Obviously no team here, but that's the markets that they are attacking. And, I had never even thought about watching a game. So I don't know how. Obviously, people are watching it, though.
Over 1 million viewers.
Yeah,
over 1 million
maybe
viewers.
It's trending that way. Maybe by the time next season rolls around, we'll be excited for the season to start, and we'll talk about rosters or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I see the social media clips. It seems interesting. Some guys are going to the NFL, so they at least have a little bit of skill in their rosters that are that can translate at least to some degree to the National Football League. So, I mean, maybe it is working, but I know the option that you've pointed out before, Reed, is the only way it can really work is if they partner with the NFL as a minor league, as a G League.
So I don't know if you guys saw this, but Tom Brady actually called the championship game. It was his first time in the booth. I haven't seen any clips, which I guess is a good thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good thing. If we would have saw some clips, it probably wouldn't have gone well. I don't know. I go back and forth. Clearly, it's trending in the right direction. And this country loves football so much. So much. It dominates. The NFL dominates every form, what we do here, talk show. Anytime that there's slight news, we'll talk about them. We don't do that for other sports. We don't do that. We don't talk about Aaron Judge. We don't talk about Shohei Ohtani and Mookie Betts over for the Dodgers. We don't really do that for college basketball or anything like that. We do that for the NFL and the NFL alone. So we love it. We can't get enough of it. Can it wedge itself a market? And I don't know how it does it. It's going to cities that don't have NFL teams, other than Detroit. I think Detroit's the only one with a team that has an NFL team.
Arlington, technically.
Okay. I just don't know how it gets there. I don't know. Because in the 80s and 70s, there was a spring football league that was very successful, poaching, I think, Jim Kelly for the Bills. He started in the USFL, and then he came over and became a Hall of Fame quarterback for the Bills. I just don't know how it gets there, and I don't know what it takes to be in the realm of something that we talk about on a regular basis. At least, and it'll never be to what college football or what the NFL is, but can it be thought of in the same way that we talk about like the NBA here in Cincinnati?
So there's also a few other players too that were actually significant to NFL history and lore, like Doug Flutie, Canadian League. There's Kurt Warner. He played in the Canadian League too, I'm pretty sure, before he became a bag boy. So, I mean, there's plenty of instances where players have come from
The USFL, I don't know if you ever seen that 30 for 30. USFL was huge. It was so big that it tried to challenge the NFL. It was a spring sport that got so big that they decided, hey, we're going to start playing our games.
Killed it. And Trump killed it.
That's right. Trump did kill the USFL, but they started playing in the fall. What?
Yeah,
I mean,
lose every poll you ever have.
It's just like, what? What are you doing here?
personally, I think there is a market for it. It just will never be as big as the NFL or college football. Clearly there's a market for it because there's already people watching it. And I think, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I watched, I think, 2 games, both of them being the Battlehawks. I was just
Our
watching
very own
for
Kyle Caskey.
Yeah, watching for Kyle Caskey, rooting him on. Shout out to Kyle Caskey. But, for me, some of the parts that I like watching are catching up on players that didn't make it in the NFL, like the A.J. McCarrons and, some of the other players around. I can't think of other players off the top of my head, but there are some others that were NFL starters at one point that played in this league. To me, it can be a developmental league. I really do think it can be. I just don't know what that looks like because to me, I would feel like you would want your practice squad players to participate in it and, be involved in it, but that's not currently happening. So I don't know. I think that there's room for it to grow, though. If the NFL buys into it, that's what should happen.
So the reason that the NFL might never buy into it is because they already have a developmental league that works perfectly fine, and they don't have to pay anything. Like if they invest into the UFL, then they have to spend their own money. They have to spend their own capital to create this league, and there's no way to do it other than just spitballing here. Each division gets a team. So the AFC North can pull from the Birmingham Stallions, and you're just hey, we got this guy in the developmental league.
Imagine that locker room. Burrow gets hurt in M&T Bank, and then the Bengals minor league players and the Ravens minor league players in the same locker room.
I just don't know how it would work in the NFL. I think that is its road to success. I said this before. It's clearly gaining traction. I just don't know what their end game is. Is their end game to have 70,000 fans at a game?
No,
I don't think that'll ever do it. Is their end game to have 10 million people watching? I don't know if that'll ever happen. The only way that I could see it is if they start plucking college players, and that's what the USFL did. They started taking popular college players, or you started pooling. Imagine Dak Prescott, who's soon to be a free agent. Imagine a UFL team saying, hey, Dak, we'll give you $75 million to come play in our league.
I genuinely don't think that works. I think that's how the league tanks. They would think that would be a big enough draw to get people to want to watch, grabbing some big player in the NFL, and it would just backfire right in their face. People care about the teams. That's how you gotta get people invested in these teams, and it's just right now there's not a whole lot of traction to that point because they're new teams really. Good on them to start doing this in areas that don't have football teams. Professional ones at least.
Right.
So I don't know. I am curious though about your thought on the end goal because I don't know what it is either. To me, it has to be a developmental league.
But the NFL will never do that because they've got to give money to that league, and I just don't. They've already got a developmental league that they don't pay a dime for.
The only chance it has, it's not even the NFL has to pay attention to it. The NFL has to give money to it. It's and Nick Moore put it in the chat. If the Saudis come in and the Saudis haven't touched the NFL yet, if they buy up that league and they say this is the Live Football League now, and they start paying
poaching players.
Because I'll tell you this right now, there's a whole lot of running backs in the NFL that when they get a check for $50 million for a season, they're going to bounce real quick.
Well, I know.
That's the only.
I don't think any NFL player. I don't think
I do.
I don't think. No, I'm saying I don't think any NFL player is going to deny money. I don't think that's about it. It's just will they ever get the money to start poaching players, and will the players move the needle? I think that there's so few players that move the needle in the NFL. I think if you swallow up even a guy like Christian McCaffrey, and you say, hey, Christian, we'll give you $45 million to come play in the UFL, I don't think that moves the needle.
No,
I'm not going to
either.
watch it. I think the list of players that move the needle are like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. Like there's like 4 to 5 quarterbacks.
I think, and I think,
Like if Dak Prescott goes to the Birmingham Stallions, am I going to sit down to watch the Birmingham Stallions play? No.
but I do think there's a somewhat chance that there's an off chance that one of those big names goes over.
Well, it has to get the funding first.
Correct, and it's a whole hypothetical. As it stands right now, yes, does it matter? Is this on the rise? I don't care about it, and I would argue that a whole hell of a lot of football fans around this country don't care about it either. I think it's great that some of these guys are able to continue their dreams, and it gives them an opportunity to continue to play football and maybe get back to the NFL or get to the NFL if they weren't good enough to get drafted. That is the part about it I love. Saying that, I will never, ever, ever in a million years sit down and watch a spring football game between the Alabama whoever's and the Carolina what's-you-might-call-its. I just don't care. It's the same way I don't watch the MLS. It's a substandard league. It's a feeder league for the better league in that sport. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's the truth. The MLS certainly is that. If you're a good MLS player, you go to Europe. That's a fact.
Like I'm sure Peyton Manning could get some views for the USFL, like Messi is.
Sure. So it's like,
Wouldn't that be something? What if
Retired.
what if the UFL, instead of becoming a developmental league, is what the MLS is, and it gives players a twilight of their career?
yeah.
To where you're giving a guy like, I don't know, Matt Stafford, after he's no longer good enough to quarterback the Rams. They're like, hey, you want to play a couple more years? We play 8 games. You want to come? We'll give you $20 million to come kick it around for a little bit. That might work to a little extent.
I think it maybe would get a couple more fans, but it's just never going to work. They've tried it. They can continue to try it. I know the numbers were up this season, but I have a hard time believing that's going to continue. It's just not football. It's not our football.
The way your hypothetical works, I think, is if it was a mass amount of players leaving, and it would have to be at least mid to high level player talents. You know, not the full-on stars, but like the elite talents that we don't usually talk about, like your defensive linemen, your corners. You start plucking like the depth around the league, and they start going over there, and it starts to elevate that talent. But like you said, it would have to be like the Saudis coming in and being like, yeah, this is going to be the live golf of the NFL. We're going to just start paying these guys double what they were going to make in the NFL.
That's its best
Like
chance.
that's its best chance to be the NFL. But I don't think it'll ever be
It'll
the
never
NFL.
be the NFL. Unless the NFL.
It doesn't need to do that. I'm trying to see how it compared its ratings compared to like early playoff games for Major League Baseball. 'Cause I bet you they're not
That different?
entirely different, or at least compare it to
Yeah.
early NBA playoff games, to where like if it's getting the same viewership as an NLDS game, that's impressive. Over 1 million viewers for a league that we don't even know when they're playing is impressive.
100%.
I don't know if you ever sat down and watched it, but it is not bad football. Like it's not like hideous to watch.
I've sat down and watched a couple. Like I don't get it. I don't want to watch it. It's just not because I know what's at stake, and what's at stake is not worth my time. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's just what it is. And Mousecop brings up a good point. It doesn't mean it's bad quality football. Nobody's saying that. It's just not the football I want to watch. It doesn't have the highest stakes in the world. I watch sports because it is the best of the best. They are playing for a championship, and I know they are down there as well. I'm not saying they're not playing for anything. I'm just saying that stake isn't worth my time.
You watch college sports,
Right, well,
that's not the highest level of play.
But it is though. It's the highest level of amateur athletics. It's the highest amateur
Do you ever watch
athletics.
Maction? You ever watch Maction?
I do watch Maction.
That's terrible football.
Terrible football.
It is terrible football.
Don't say terrible. That is pure football.
It's good football. If
That's
you're
how football's meant to be played.
It's good football if you enjoy like betting on it.
But that was the next
That's-
thing I
yeah,
said
that's what I was
is can these leagues really get pushed by betting? Because everyone loves to gamble on
Yes.
football. It's number one thing. Can they get pushed by DraftKings, FanDuel to where these leagues go, hey, baseball's not cutting it for us in the springtime after college basketball's done. Even the NBA, I know they kill it on the NBA, is they go, honestly, the best time that they should play is like right after the NBA
Yeah.
Finals play.
Yes.
And just do it through June to
Week
when
1.
college football starts.
Yeah, but
and
then
you just say, hey, this will and really push the betting of it. Going, hey, you've got to gamble on these games. Like, hey, we got to push on the UFL. We've got to boost and all this stuff. Maybe that can move the needle a little further.
I think it could if college football keeps trending the way that it's going, and more and more people start getting sick of college football, and then people really who are just desperate to gamble on football, want to gamble on the UFL, then maybe it could start to make a push. But I don't think it would ever pass the NFL unless the NFL kind of eats itself alive like it's doing. I feel like the NFL is starting to expand very quickly. You see with like Netflix games, or the games that are going to be broadcast on Netflix. I think that could annoy people. People wouldn't be watching that. You could see viewership going down in some ways just because they're trying to expand so quickly. But I think if there's one level of football that it could pass in terms of viewership and enjoyment, it would be college football rather than the NFL.
Once again, I don't think it needs to ever surpass those things to be successful. I think it just has to be an irrelevance to where we talk about it in the same way that we sit here and we talk to a segment about the NBA championship is what does it mean for Jason Tatum to win a ring?
Right.
All right. I have not a hypothetical. I have some comparisons that I would like for someone to look up while I explain my thought here. The MLS is a developmental league, right, Elliot? That's what you want to claim. That's probably the numbers and the viewership that they should be striving for then for the UFL. Whatever those numbers are,
let's see
the MLS is growing like crazy. If they're hitting those types of numbers, then they're in the right direction in terms of what they should be striving for, because it'll never be the NFL. It'll never be college football. It's got to be something lower than that. It's got to be something where it's just the pure fans that want to watch maybe their city team. We don't have a UFL team, but like I said, I watch because of Kyle Kasky and the Battlehawks. Like, I root for them. I don't root for any other team. I don't watch any other team, just the Battlehawks. It'll never be a league where we watch every single game every Sunday like the NFL. You know what I'm saying?
So regular season UFL broadcast
Yep.
had 4 times the viewership that regular season MLS broadcast get. Oh, that's from 2018. Well, no, even to today. 4 times the viewership. So the UFL has already surpassed the MLS in viewership.
But that's also, there's how many games in
Fewer games. Well, there was
5 regular season home games, so maybe 10.
As far as I'm seeing, yeah.
There's one thing.
I know the Battlehawks played 5 regular season home games.
One thing too that I think
This is from. Actually, it's about the same. Now that I'm looking at it across all, it's about the same.
And if it's about the same, then I think that it's in a good spot. And it probably still has room to grow because it's football. So I don't know. I think it's in the – we all know it's going in the right direction. I think it's fine where it's at, though. Like, it's
I think that, like I said, if people sit down and they watch MAC football, why won't they watch the UFL?
fair.
UFL's probably better football.
Yeah.
It's played in a time when it's not competing against other things. The Maction does better than postseason baseball games.
Yeah. And also Apple TV for the MLS. It's
Yeah.
behind
You're
a
not wrong.
paywall. But that being said, like, the fact that it's still getting the viewers that it is currently, and it's probably still going to just keep trending up. Like, I don't think that they need to – we already know that they just need to be a developmental league. I think that's the answer. It's just right now they probably need to get, double the amount of viewers that they've got?
I mean, if they just
to be
keep
successful.
growing, it's the highest rated spring football league in the modern era since the 80s of the USFL.
And I think gambling is going to play a huge role in that.
I think what I said earlier would
Yeah.
be very wise. Wait till the NBA playoffs are done, and then you start right then. Like, start this week.
I think that, I mean, it gets very hot in some of those areas, so maybe they'd have to
Very, very hot. but-
transition into indoor. But I think it
We can talk about it in a hypothetical sense, but let's be very clear. If Cincinnati got one or even if we say it, nope, none of us are going. And I'm speaking
Well, that's
with.
what you
I don't.
think.
I mean, Detroit
I
has
agree
one.
with that.
I don't.
You guys are
I
going to
could-
one.
If Cincinnati had a spring football team playing here, I would probably go to games. Almost certainly, I'd go to games.
If I'm going to FC games already,
And let's
knowing
be-
that it's not
But that's
like
not.
this is where I'm
that's not your
talking
love
about
of.
is-
That's just your love of football. Going to watch football.
What's
well, no, I
what's
would.
the
I
end
would prefer any
game
team
here?
in Cincinnati that plays a sport I enjoy.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like, they're never. Your love for them would never surpass what your love for the Bengals is. You're just going to those games because they're cheaper and it's football.
yeah, but
Well,
his
yeah,
love
that's,
for,
well, that's,
for the
I'm
Bengals
doing it
is
for
more than-
entertainment purposes.
I like
I'm, just
Ohio
doing it, I'm
State.
just doing it to
Like,
go
it's-
around and watch
yeah.
a game. This is what I'm talking about. We're like, what's the end game here? If the end game is to get butts in seats, I'm not sure they'll ever do that. We can keep drawing the comparisons from action. If you watch action, people are watching it. Look who's at the game. Nobody's at the game. Those stadiums are very rarely even half filled.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever been to a Miami football game. God love them. No one's there.
How many
think it's a
how many
little
spring
different.
football games did this room watch? How many of these games do we watch?
Said I've watched like
Zero.
two.
Not a
Zero.
I watched 0.
The only spring football I've ever watched is Notre
Well, I
Dame.
guess
If
I guess I'm
Cincinnati had a
saying
team,
is
I would watch
what would it,
almost
what would it-
every game.
There's just
what
no
would it
way
take
you
for
would.
you to start watching it?
Sunday afternoon when the Reds are playing, we're watching the UFL team.
If you think I have one TV in my house,
Again, I get that, but you're not paying attention to the Bengals.
Do they
So,
play
so
on
I guess
Sunday?
Cincinnati
what, okay,
Thunderbirds.
let's try
In
to
May,
sell
when-
Elliot on this. Let's try to sell Elliot on
if they
this
play on
because I think
Sunday.
he's already in the mindset that nothing can bring him over there, and that's fine. Like that's a. What would it take for you to get there? Because do you watch action?
I do.
Because you bet on it.
Correct.
So, like, is that the avenue in which the UFL has to pull you in? Is
Yes.
by like
Yes,
saying
yes,
like
yes,
like
you were right.
give me something to bet on?
More
you
boosts.
can bet on it.
You can. I don't have any incentive to, but I surely.
Well, what's the incentive to bet on the MAC?
I watch college football.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, why?
Yeah, you have
It's
no,
just-
you have
like,
no
why?
you have no appreciation for any of those schools. You don't care about Buffalo versus
I went
Northern
to
Illinois.
Toledo, but
Okay. How many
Toledo
you sit down and watch TLO games a lot?
I watched my Toledo when I was at Toledo. Yeah, I watched the Toledo games.
But now, like Buffalo versus Northern Illinois, you're going to sit down and watch it because you're going to bet on it.
Sure, that's 100% correct.
So, but why
so
is
if-
that any different than betting on Seattle versus San Antonio or St. Louis versus San Antonio? In
theory,
a
you guys-
calendar, in the months of the
theory-
calendar where there's nothing
in-
else going on.
In theory, you guys are correct, but the issue is until I have like a somewhat reason to like kind of care about it, I just don't. I don't.
What? So it's
I-
not a team in your city, is what you're saying. It's
That wouldn't
got to be
influence it?
betting. It's got to be more
No.
towards betting.
I don't. I have never been on. I bet on like one FC game
So if
every
they
3
picked,
years.
they play on Sundays too, don't they?
I think it's like
Sunday
Saturday,
afternoon.
Sunday.
I think so, yeah.
So like if they start taking these UFL games and they get an ESPN contract to show them on Wednesday night, same as Maction.
Honestly, that's what they should do. Then I can watch it.
Right.
If it's a Wednesday night, I'll watch it.
Because I think Sundays during the spring is just a tough time. Nice weather, you're normally doing something.
That's a good point too. The MAC plays at a perfect time. It's capitalized the market. I'm playing midweek night games. That's the best time to watch it because I mean again, not the best football in the world, but it's entertaining and nothing else is on. If they play on Wednesday nights, I'll watch.
Yeah, they actually wait till baseball's done. They wait till baseball's done and that's when they start Maction.
Yep. And Fun Belt. Don't forget about the Fun Belt.
It's just interesting because it's like that's what I keep asking is what's the end game? What is their like when they sit down at board meetings? What are they trying to accomplish? Is it put butts in seats? Is it get people to watch? And I know it's all of it. They just want to make money. But it's like where do they see like this is the point where we are successful? Do they just see that? Do they just sell these investors on this country loves football. We can get it. We can get in this market. I just wonder at the end of the day, what is their end game? Because I think that two things can help them grow, and one is wait till the NBA's done, wait till the NHL's done. Start right now. Start mid-June. Play until the next 2 months. I know it's hot. I know it's hot in a lot of these areas. You play these next 2 months when the only thing you're competing against is Major League Baseball, midsummer Major League Baseball. Play during the week, get contracts to where you are the front and center on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. And then you gotta get really into the gambling stuff.
And I think being from a city that has a team, I remember when they first started talking about the USFL and the Michigan Panthers, people were kind of interested, partially because the Lions were so bad. So I think now it's in a rough, like just seeing it, like no one really even bats an eye with the Michigan Panthers because the Lions have been so good. But I would be interested to see how people in the city would take in a team like that if the Lions are like start to kind of go back downhill from where they are right now. But I don't know. I'm not quite convinced.
For a city like Cincinnati, whose current football team, the NFL team's really good, but the college football team not so good. The way that they were able to bring in FC Cincinnati and grow it from what it was to now being in the MLS, being one of the top teams, selling out crowds, like I wouldn't ever rule out a city like Cincinnati being able to take in a spring football league team. You just have to find the cities that can host one. And I don't know what that...
We'd be great for summer football.
I agree.
The weather's fantastic here in the summer. The final thing I'll say as I'll wrap up this this football talk, and I think that there's different ways in which the UFL, it's going to be around for a couple more years. Like the other ones pretty much were dead on arrival, but with the money that they have back in and everything like that, we'll see how they do in year 2 of the UFL, of the combined leagues. One thing I'll say is just transitioning this back into NFL talk, and I'll bring this where we're talking about you need faces of franchise. They can poach players. One thing we didn't talk about with Trevor Lawrence yesterday signing this thing is we talked about how bad Trevor Lawrence has been and maybe disappointing. He's the reason that Jacksonville still has an NFL team, by the way. You remember before they got Trevor Lawrence, they were very heavily rumored to go over to Britain and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like that was a no-brainer for Jacksonville on that contract and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I mean that's what people were putting in the chat. They were like they would have lost $275 million over the next 5 years anyway without Trevor, with fans and stuff.
Right.
And then you got to go to the conversation. If you're a GM, what are we doing? Are we making money? Are we signing quarterbacks that are going to win football games?
At the end of the day, when the owner's saying, hey, when the owners who are very heavily in these conversations go, hey, what are we trying to do? The owners want to make money. So they go, hey,
yeah, I guess that's the gripe that fan bases usually have with their owners. You'd rather have owners want to win games than make money.
Right. All right. We're going to go to Box Lunch for members only. Reminder for the members, our baseball video is going to come out around 2 p.m. I'll have that scheduled after Box Lunch. But we're going to go to Box Lunch, and then we are going to have that video released at 2 p.m. We'll see you tomorrow on Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers.